Morning, everybody. Just a sound check. Welcome to the session. We're just admitting more colleagues into the session. So we will be with you in 3.5 minutes time. Enjoy the session. Morning, Toto. Morning, everybody. You're welcome to greet each other in the chat room in the meantime. We just admitting more people into the session. Good morning, everybody. Welcome to this event. We've been looking forward to joining some time with you today. It's already past the half of this year. It's the 6th of July 2023. As they said last year, this time it was May only. So time is really flying. So we're proudly being hosted today by BidAir Cargo. And they're going to tell us a lot more about this great company just now. And we are, as I speak, still admitting more people into the session. And we would like to do a little bit of housekeeping while we're doing this. The normal thing, please keep yourselves on mute during the session. It's great that we manage it that way. Later in this event, we will give you opportunity to unmute if you want to ask questions, and that will be during the the questions and answer session. Then you can unmute, and when we recognize you, you can then speak. You're also welcome to use the chat room to post questions there for the panelists, and we will address those, during the questions and answer sessions. Many times the panelists already answer your question in the chat room. So, but you're most welcome to share your contact details, say, greet each other in the chat room. Just please keep the discussions related to today's topic. Ladies and gents, the Transport Forum running 16 years, more than 16 years already. And obviously that's been made possible by valued associates and sponsors of the forum, because, attendance and so on, all the related content on the web and everything are for free. So I would like to give recognition to our sponsors and our associates. And looking at the program we have today, the safety and security challenges within the supply chain, proudly being hosted by BidAir Cargo. So that is our program. As we go along, we will work through the program. I'm not going to read everything now. So there's a second half of our program. You can see at the end the questions and answers. So we won't allow questions and answers during the presentations. So we're going to have a bit fun as well. As you can see there, the first session, the housekeeping, stakeholder recognition, and quiz, 2 prizes to be won. So that is lots of fun. So we again got 2 nice magneto solar LED lights. You can charge them by solar as well. And it's very nice, especially nowadays with our load shedding, very handy. And what we're going to do is, as I speak and introducing you to our associates and alliances and sponsors, listen carefully, because at the end, I'm going to ask 2 questions. And the first person answering the question right in the chat room, that person will win one of these magneto lights. It's very handy lights. And so after the event, we will obtain your preferred delivery address and we'll have your prize couriered to you. So listen carefully. Lots of fun. So ladies and gents, let me just get my screen sorted here. All right, so the Transport Forum is blessed having associates and industry alliances. These are professional bodies that are formally aligned with the Transport Forum. There are obviously many others also involved, but these are in a formal agreement with the Transport Forum. Let's quickly have a look at them. So we've got the South African Association of Freight Forwarders, already established in 1921. And ladies, I just want to say, as usual, any of these sponsoring companies and associates, if somebody of that organization wants to say a few words, you're welcome to interrupt me and say a few words yourself. Otherwise, I'll just continue. So SAF, as we know them, Dr. Unita Maria is the CEO. You can see they make a major contribution to facilitating trade within South Africa. Member companies manage over 80% of South Africa's international trade. So great having SAF as an industry alliance. South African Express Parcel Association, SAPA, is a representative body, voice of the express delivery industry in South Africa, comprises of member companies engaged in express freight and courier industry. Thank you very much, SAPA. All right, we've got the Road Freight Association. They say without trucks, South Africa stops. Gavin Kelly and team, you can see that they represent green, smart, safe, legal, and freight road transport. Thank you very much, RFA. We've got the African Rail Industry Association. So this association is a preeminent body in South Africa representing players in the railway industry. And they do lots of good work in terms of third-party access, getting government and private sector to get closer to each other, collaborating. So Marcella Flaper and her team, they're doing great work here. Thank you, Aria. We've got the South African Bus Operators Association. They're the voice of the bus and the coach industry, already formed in 1980 by 5 leading bus companies at the time. So today they represent about 70% of the public transport bus and coach fleet. Thank you very much, Sabawa. We also have formal media houses associated with the Transport Forum. As I said, there are many others as well, but these are formal, associated with the Transport Forum. So we've got Freight News by Freight and Trading Weekly, And if you're not subscribed to these magazines, then you're losing out big time, ladies and gents. And you can obviously get all the links on the Transformers website. I'll share the website link with you just now. So Freight News, all about logistics news and features for import and export decision makers. Thank you very much, Freight News. Railways Africa magazine, Railways Africa magazine published weekly online. You can see the African Continent Specialist Trade Technical Business-to-Business online publication covering all aspects of the rail sector. Engineering news from Creamer Media. You can see their premier source of real economy news, and they usually leave us a very nice video wrapping up the past week. So here is the video they shared with us.
Hello and welcome to this week's edition of the Engineering News and Mining Weekly magazine, published on Friday, 7 July 2023. In this week's cover article, Engineering News and Mining Weekly senior contributing editor online Darren Parker unpacks how grid capacity and skills shortages are hampering the renewables rollout. Grid capacity constraints and skills shortages have been highlighted by several renewable industry leaders as the primary issues that are holding South Africa back from overcoming the current energy crisis. The Engineering News features focus on steel, where non-competitiveness and non-use plague the South African steel industry. Water engineering, infrastructure and reservoirs, where urbanization is placing pressure on water infrastructure. Business in KwaZulu-Natal, where the Trade Expo Kite 2023 promises to be bigger and better. And testing, inspection and certification services, where enforcing measurable objectives can ensure quality products. The Mining Weekly features focus on pumps, where processing plants should upgrade pumps first when increasing their minerals processing throughput. This week's business leader is Greg Maslov, co-CEO of Sapro. And as this week's cartoon shows, in the years preceding the start of the load shedding crisis in 2007, electricity commentators would regularly warn that the distribution sector was emerging as South Africa's weakest link. Distribution level faults are now causing more disruption to business and households than load shedding. We hope you enjoy this edition of Creamer Media's Engineering News and Mining Weekly. Be sure to subscribe to the magazine that offers you in-depth news about developments in the real economy by emailing subscriptions@engineeringnews.co.za. Happy reading and see you next time.
Thank you, Engineering News. Ladies and gents, yes, then we have our hosting company today, BidAir Cargo. They fulfill the needs of the express cargo industry for daytime and overnight cargo capacity across a comprehensive Southern and East Africa footprint. So they're a leading cargo airline, providing express airport-to-airport solutions and related services to the courier and express logistics industry. Thank you very much, BidAir Cargo, for your gold sponsorship and also hosting us today. Roy will tell us a little bit more about them just now. So they've got a great video they shared with us. Let's have a look at this.
In the world of express freight, there's one name that stands above the rest: BidAir Cargo. Our airport-to-airport line haul service is the backbone of South Africa's express freight industry. At BidAir Cargo, we don't just deliver cargo, we go the extra mile to ensure a seamless and efficient experience in South Africa. With our unwavering commitment to excellence and improved technology, we handle your cargo with utmost care and deliver it on time, every time. Our dedication to service excellence is what sets us apart. We live by our core values of service excellence, mutual respect, integrity and accountability. When you choose BidAir Cargo, you're choosing a partner that takes pride in going above and beyond for your freight needs. From pharmaceuticals to perishable goods, automotive parts to live animal transportation, we handle a diverse range of commodities. Our attention to detail and precision ensure that your cargo arrives in perfect condition, no matter what it is. Our dedicated teams work tirelessly to guarantee the safety and efficient transport of your cargo. We leave no stone unturned to ensure your freight arrives at its destination intact and on time. With our advanced track and trace system, you can monitor your shipments in real time. Stay informed about the whereabouts of your cargo with just a few clicks. Our goal is to provide you with peace of mind and complete transparency throughout the entire journey. We understand that time is of the essence for our valued customers. That's why we offer a user-friendly online portal that simplifies the documentation process. Obtain quotations and create e-labels with ease, saving you valuable time and effort. Whether you have a small package or a large shipment, BidAir Cargo handles it all with equal care and precision. Our ISO certification is a testament to our commitment to quality and professionalism. We don't just excel in domestic express freight, we also cater to your international cargo needs. No matter the size of your business, whether you're a small enterprise or a multinational corporation, you can trust us to handle your cargo with the same level of dedication and attention to detail. Connect with us today and discover the difference our innovative technology, seamless tracking, and customer-orientated approach will make to your operation. BidAir Cargo. Same-day express every day, overnight express every night.
Thank you so much, BidAir Cargo. What a great company. Ladies and gents, we also have a platinum sponsor with the Transport Forum, also part of the Transport since inception, Ctrack. So their operations span, you can see 6 continents in over 55 countries, over 30 years experience, and it's been keeping mobile assets of consumers, small and mid-sized businesses and large enterprises always visible, resulting in visible vehicle security, safer driving and more efficient fleet operations. Thank you, Ctrack, for your platinum sponsorship.
Time management, fleet productivity, and driver management remain among the most critical priorities for fleet managers, business owners, or anyone managing a fleet of vehicles. Ctrack has innovated further by introducing enhancements to Crystal, the advanced telematics and fleet management platform, delivering an always-on, scalable, flexible, and fully customizable experience. All the benefits and features of Crystal remain, with driver management and fleet productivity enhancements, enabling your business, big or small, to elevate business insight with quality data and AI-powered predictions for immediate and productive decision-making. Users can now ensure optimum fleet utilization with daily productivity reports displayed on the Crystal dashboard for easy access. Driver jobs can be scheduled with ideal routes based on traffic data, complete with indicated and mandatory fuel stops based on preferred locations. Delivery locations and addresses can be accessed from the pre-populated drop-down list, further enriching ease of use. Drivers access these assigned jobs from the Crystal application on virtually any smartphone or tablet from anywhere in the world, giving them specific duties, precise locations, optimal routes with real-time traffic updates, and even assigned delivery times, updated in real time based on the predefined routes provided, reducing unproductive idle time. Another exciting addition is that Crystal now features customizable electronic proof of delivery with sign-on glass and photo evidence technology, ensuring safe and digital proof of delivery. Crystal, powered by Ctrack, provides enhanced productivity and time management. Get Crystal and have the power to predict.
Thank you, Ctrack. What a great product. Ladies and gents, we've got the university also involved formally. Also since inception is University of Johannesburg, their Department of Transport and Supply Chain Management, playing a big role also in mentoring myself, also planning this processes and agendas of the Transport Forum. So we really appreciate University of Johannesburg's support, and they're playing a big role in the Transport Forum. Thank you so much. Right, we've got Global Trade Solution, innovative solutions transforming global supply chain. Gold sponsor with the Transport Forum, you can see they're focusing on consulting and strategy, software solutions, and specialized services. Thank you very much, GTS. Pegasus, another gold sponsor with the Transport Forum, changing lives, changing worlds. I see Pegasus, ladies and gents, they focus on many different sectors: cities, climate, energy, resilience, transport, waste, and water. You can see they leverage their sector-leading expertise and experience to craft and implement mobility solutions which work and have substantial impact. Thank you, Pegasus, for your gold sponsorship. Unitron Supply Chain Solutions, innovations, expertise delivered. See, they are leading provider in integrated transportation, warehousing, and supply chain-based services to customers with a variety of needs, offering bespoke value propositions in each segment. Thank you, Unitron, for your gold sponsorship. JC Auditors, I don't know if Oliver's online, if you want to say a few words. So it's about compliance, certification, one solution. You can see they are a SANAS accredited certification body providing internationally recognized certifications. So it's all about compliance, playing an important role also in the road transport management system. Thank you, JC Auditors, for your gold sponsorship. So we've got the Simotech. Simotech, you can see it's all about smart supply, smart parking, smart security, smart kiosks, and many hardware solutions. Someone can contact Tracy there to learn more from Simotech's offering. Thank you, Simotech, for your gold sponsorship. EasyClear. See, EasyClear is a leading software provider for the customs and clearing industry. You can see it's freight forwarding and logistic providers covering air, sea, road, and rail. Thank you very much, EasyClear. We really appreciate your gold sponsorship. Ticket Pro Travel. So let's say it's a Ticket Pro group, and they've got a very nice solution for all your corporate online bookings. It's a corporate travel booking tool with everything you need and nothing you don't want. You see, they say there are no contracts, no hidden fees, just good business. Now, straightforward, fair pricing. So thank you very much, Ticket Pro Travel, for your gold sponsorship. Still from the same group, Ticket Pro, and they've got this product called Smart Tap. Smart Tap is a system which includes key features like comprehensive route management, flexible passenger payment methods, flexible route and fare product setup, shift and dispatch management, cashier system, inspection tools, and comprehensive management information reports. You can see at the bottom there, Smart Tap gives you access to integrated retail footprint, which is managed by Ticket Pro. Retail channels include formal outlets, petroleum outlets, independently owned outlets, and informal outlets. So thank you very much, Ticket Pro, for this great product, Smart Tap. Zutari, consulting engineers of note. You can see they say impact engineered. Also many years gold sponsor with the Transport Forum, previously known as Oricon. Thank you very much, Zutari. We really appreciate your gold sponsorship. We've got Kubo. They are transforming ticketing, part of the ICM Mobility Group, which enables public and private transport to move into the digital era. See journey planning, smart ticketing, streamlining electronic payment, shaping the digital transformation of the mobility sector. Thank you, Kuba, for your gold sponsorship. Standard Bank, more than 160 years of experience. They believe that dreams matter and that together they make them a reality. So Standard Bank operates in more than 20 countries in Africa and abroad. So their worldwide presence consists of an integrated suite of end-to-end wealth management services and banking solutions. Thank you very much, Standard Bank. Kathy Bell from Standard Bank also plays a major role also with the road transport management system. Thank you very much for your gold sponsorship. So ladies and gents, that's now our sponsors and alliances, and it's now time to have a little bit of fun. We're going to do the quiz, and you might be the lucky winner of one of these very nice solar-powered magneto lights. They are our sponsors. And what you now should do is you should keep, the chat room ready, and let's see if you can then answer the question right. And the first person answering the question right is the winner of that prize. Right. So here comes the first question. I'm looking for a product name. Which product gives you access to integrated retail footprint, including formal outlets, petroleum outlets, independently owned outlets, and informal outlets? What's that product name? Benita, you're almost there. There you go, Benita. Congratulations to Benita. You're the winner of that one. That was very smart. I'm just making a note here. All right. Here comes the next question. Which airline fulfills the needs of the express cargo industry? There you go, John van Rensburg. Congratulations. That was fast. Good. Congratulations to our winners. That was now quick and powerful. I just want to remind you, ladies and gents, of the Transport Forum's business directory. We're getting very good feedback in terms of all the heats and exposure companies are getting through this. We've outsourced this as one of our B initiatives to Pauline Bontley consultant, Olga Mashilu. There is a number, you can take a picture. You'll also receive an email after this event asking your feedback. And please, ladies and gents, that feedback we ask from you guys is very important because we pick up topics and stuff, you know, to include in future events. And also you'll have opportunity there to indicate whether you're an app, whether you want Olga to give you a contact. It's only 450 rands a year, and you can have your company listed in this well-categorized business directory. So thank you for that, and thank you for Olga for administrating this. So there's the Transport Forum's website, transportseek.com. Ladies and gents, it's from this website you can also download presentations presented at the Transport Forum over the past 16 years, more than 900 presentations there. So it's a very strong knowledge base, and it's all complementary. So what you should do is you need to be logged in should you want to download presentations and obviously access other functionalities on this website. And it's all complementary. So if you visit that website, the Transport Forum's website, you will see on the left of your screen, you'll find a user login area where you obviously use your username and password. Should you not have a username and password yet, you'll click on sign up. And the sign up will take you through a very little simple process that you sign up, you know, creating your own username and password and everything. And then an email will be sent and you confirm the email, and then you can log in. Once you've logged in, then you can go to events and you choose downloads, and then it will give you that simple but powerful search engine. Two fields, a bottom field, a top field, and a bottom field. The top field, you can type in a title or a description or a person's surname, and when you hit search, it will bring up all the presentations according to the word that you've typed in there. Or you can go to category, you select category, and then you select the day's date, and then hit search, and it will bring up all the presentations presented on that day. So very smart and simple, but powerful, and lots of information at your disposal. All right, ladies and gents, let's give a big hand to all our sponsors, alliance partners. We're really proud in having them on board with the Transport Forum. That brings us now back to our program, the safety and security challenges within the supply chain. It's the 6th of July, 2023. I'm going to introduce you to our host today, Mr. Roy Solomons. He's the Commercial Director of BidAir Cargo, to do the formal welcome. Thank you very much, Roy.
Good morning and welcome to everybody. First of all, thanks, Harry and UJ and all our sponsors. Really great to have you guys doing this forum. I've personally gained lots of value from the forum. I think that's why we're part of this, the Transport Forum for many years now, Harry, and the learning from the industry experts like we have today, We've got some heavy hitters here. And I'm actually glad, and congratulations, Benita. At least we know you, some of our customers are online. And yeah, I'm sure you're going to enjoy the light. You know, logistics is all about getting cargo shipments to our clients safely, securely. And in the industry at the moment, we're going through lots of challenges, specifically on safety and security. And we pride ourselves in getting our customers and giving the service of having those shipments delivered on time, every time. You've all seen the video. We got some good workhorses there that fly every night around South Africa and making sure that our customers can deliver their goods. During COVID, we operated right through ensuring everybody, whether it be retail, the pharmaceuticals, etc., were able to deliver the services that were required at the time. So I'm not a good speaker, but welcome to everybody. Nico, Theo, Massimo, Tyson, Pierre, I'm sure you're going to give good value to in your presentations to the guys. From a, call it, the industry experts will be giving us guidelines in terms of what is best practices, and we learn from each other. I think one of the, and you look at all the associations involved with the Transport Forum, it's all about learning from each other, collaborating, and getting best practices. So thanks, Harry, once again, and to all the sponsors. All I want to end up with is, air is better, it's quicker, so talk to us, guys. Enjoy.
Thank you so much, Roy. Really appreciate it. Also, Roy, thank you for your assistance in putting together this great panel we have today. We really appreciate that. Ladies and gents. Yes, thank you very much, Roy. So, ladies and gents, let's look at our program. Our first presenter today, and we put him first because he's presenting all the way from Australia. So, and on his side, it's already evening. So, Pierre, thank you very much for presenting and helping us out. Pierre is an internationally recognized person on cybersecurity and so on, and he serves on boards and stuff, international. So, Pierre, thank you very much. And we're looking forward to listening to you about the cybersecurity threats. Pierre is a Sales Director, Cybersecurity and Risk and Air Traffic Management, South Australia. Thank you very much, Pierre.
Good morning, everyone.
Morning, Pierre.
I will try and start my...
Good evening, Pierre.
Good evening. Yeah, it's now 5:30 p.m. where I live. I just want to see... Harry, can you see my presentation?
We can see a white screen.
That's not good. Well, it's cybersecurity. I'm hiding it so you can't see it. Why can't you see my presentation? This did work when we tried it. Let me try it again. So share my screen. With the different windows I've got open, I want to share that one. Now you must be seeing it.
Yes, we can see it. Just slide view. Then we go.
There we are. Okay.
Yeah, just slide view.
Good morning. Is that not slide view?
No, not yet.
Not yet. Still not slide view?
No. If you go to the top, you go to slideshow and you select start from the beginning, something like that.
Or bottom right slideshow.
Yeah, you can also select that one. But okay, first you must share again.
I'm supposed to be a technology professional. Look at me struggling with something like
No problem.
Okay, so let's say share the screen. Can you see something now?
Yes, but we still need slide view.
You,
Now, if you click on the top at slide show, there's two next from view. I don't know if it's behind your. Otherwise, P, I can flood your slides on your behalf.
Still not see it? Perfect on my side.
No,
Ah. Okay, Harry, maybe you should drive it from your side.
let's do that.
Okay. So yes, thank you very much, everyone. As Harry said, I work for Saab Australia. We also have a subsidiary in South Africa, in Centurion, Saab Grintech. We're a global defense company. We build submarines, we build ships, we build fighter jets, and we build a lot of things that go bang, missiles and everything else. And as a company, we also supply air traffic management systems and ship management systems globally. Totally, we've got a product globally of about 16,000 people. We're in 130 countries globally. And I work in division that supply air traffic control systems to about 63 countries in the world. But tonight, I'm going to talk about cybersecurity. And I thought I'll try something different tonight. I will talk about the global cybersecurity changes that are coming to the aviation industry. Now, you might ask, now, what the heck does this have to do with you if you run a cargo company, or you run a few aircraft, or you run an airport? I hope to show you how these changes that are coming from ICAO, the Global Aviation Management Organization, Civil Aviation Safety Authority, how those changes are driving everything that we do in aviation in future, from the modernization of NOTAMs, briefing systems, everything around airport, and also drives the new aviation, the new aircraft that we buy. Boeing, Airbus, and all the other suppliers are building some of these standards into their new aviation frames. And as new aircraft roll off the supply chain, or the factories in the future, they've already started. You'll see some of these cybersecurity changes being developed. Okay, so Harry, do you move on to the next slide, or do I press a button? Okay, so I'm going to look today, focus on. So these are the things I'm going to look at. First, I'm going to look at cyber aviation, cyber attacks. We don't always hear about this, but I'll just give you an overview of some of the cyber attacks that happened last year. These are those that were in the news. Some of them, a lot of them don't get to the news. Countries, or companies don't like to share that they've been cyber hacked. Then we're going to look at the global aviation security plan, and I'll tell you about what's happening on a global stage and how cybersecurity has been driven down from a global stage to a regions, and from there to countries. I will then give you an example what's happening in Europe, what they call the Pan-European Network Service. And I'll just quickly talk about a cybersecurity framework and what we've seen happening in various countries. This one specifically comes from the USA. There's something similar happening in Europe, and something similar happening in the Indo-Pacific region. So that's the outline. Harry, next one, please. So this is just an example of some of the cyber attacks that happened in the last year, in 2022. These are the more known, those in the news. You can see it's fairly widely across the world. Everybody always likes to blame the Chinese and blame the Russians, but even the Russians and the Chinese get attacked in these areas. So it happens everywhere in the world. A huge amount of this is being driven by criminals. The favorite thing nowadays is they log onto your network, they encrypt your data, and then they ask for ransomware. It's like the old thing that happened. People would come down your road and throw a brick through your windows and say you've got to pay them protection money. This is just the modern version. And it happens all over the globe. And this is driven by criminal gangs. And they are very successful. They make millions and millions a year through this process. So that gives you an overview. So if you think it doesn't happen in the aviation industry, this happens. And if you think it doesn't happen to countries, I can give you an example. In 2012, there was something like 729 attacks on the FAA. And I know that because they published it in a report. You can download the report. The impact was so bad that the FAA had to shut down certain part of the air traffic control system in Alaska to try and solve some of the cybersecurity problems. And if you want to, you can go and download the report from the FAA themselves. So this happens globally, and it happens everywhere in all countries. So the next one, Harry. So let's quickly let me give you an overview. So for those of you that know ICAO, so that's the International Civil Aviation Organization. For those of you that don't know about ICAO, they are a specialized agency under the United Nations. As we've seen the other day with the World Health Organization that locked us all up with COVID. This is the organization that look at global aviation. The headquarters is in Montreal. And if you want to know why does this affect you on the ground, because these people in ICAO make rules and regulations, and then that flows down to the country, and your regulator in South Africa has to implement whatever comes from this ICAO organization. They are very big, they're like United Nations. Everybody flies there, so your regulator will fly there twice a year, have meetings, vote on certain papers, and if they approve that, it comes down to your regulator in South Africa, and they will implement that. Your regulator gets audited once every 5 years by ICAO, and in certain instances, if they do not implement these standards, they can lose their license to supply aviation services like air traffic management services in South Africa. So it has a fairly big penalty if you do not comply to these standards. Now you can read a little bit there, so I'm just focusing on the Global Air Navigation Plan. You can have a look there. You can go and download. All these documents are freely available. Just go to ICAO and download the Global Aviation Security Plan. And you can see some objectives there of the Global Security Plan. So, help states and stakeholders to look at the global aviation security. It helps you to give international standards and everybody working in the same direction. It's also intended to achieve the shared common knowledge and share aviation risks that we find in the different countries. So that's the idea with the Global Aviation Security Plan. It's not a big document, about 10 pages. So the next one, Harry, 75 pages, I think. It's not that big. So this Global Aviation Plan is then broken down into the 5 areas of ICAO. So there's the Asia Pacific region. They've got the European vision, they've got Africa, and they've got North and South America, North America and South America. So there's ICAO offices in these different regions. That gives you then a regional cybersecurity plan for Africa or for Europe or Asia Pacific and Indo-Pacific. So these are the key points and priorities for all of these different plans. You'll see there. So there's a security roadmap of which each one of these states have to deliver, or these regions have to deliver. So you can go to the Africa, you will find there's an aviation security, cybersecurity roadmap that identifies actions and responsibilities for states and industries on how they have to adhere to cybersecurity. And it focuses on stuff like, development of security culture, human capability, innovation, fostering, improving oversight, quality assurance, and increase cooperation and support. So these documents, again, is all available. You can go and download. So I think the idea that I'm trying to show you that from a global perspective, there is a drive to standardize cybersecurity. I'll give you an example now of why it's so important. Next one, Harry. So so there's a cybersecurity framework that then is created for each one of these different regions. So this is the framework that was created for the North America region. And I just took this example from their framework. So, and a similar framework is also being created for the Indo-Pacific region. So just why are these cybersecurity frameworks needed for the aviation industry. And you can see that the first line, the ICT capability of is the most complex of integrated systems for information technology. So if you look at the whole aviation ecosystem, it is one of the most complex systems around. And I've got a picture shortly that I will show you what I mean by that. There's no common vision and approach to how to handle cybersecurity in this whole ecosystem. You can imagine cybersecurity is usually a sovereignty issue. I remember I was chairing a meeting in Montreal, and there were 75 countries in the meeting, and I was chairing the meeting. And in that meeting, we had the Russians, and we had the Americans, and the Canadians, and Australians, and Singaporeans, and Chinese. And everybody wants cybersecurity standard, but nobody wants to share what's happening in their country because cybersecurity is such a sensitive issue. Yet, as aviation, we fly all over the world. Aviation fly all over the world. You know, we don't like North Korea nowadays, but the reality is we fly to North Korea. We share flight plans with North Korea. We share NOTAMs, flight briefing, metadata with North Korea. So we have to share information globally. And as we move to this new aviation systems, this new aircraft that comes along, you know, many years ago, you would get onto aircraft and you had to read a newspaper. Nowadays, you can get on most of these aircraft, and most of them has got internet in the cockpit. So yes, more and more we start sharing information in these cockpits and in these aircraft as we fly. You can imagine also in this ecosystem, we have now more and more UTCs or unmanned aerial aircraft coming into the systems nowadays. How do you manage these unmanned aircraft into the aviation system? Yeah, the trend to increase the connectivity and interdependence of the aviation systems, you know, hugely interdependent, and the connectivity. For those of you that don't know, you know, they are starting with the process. Well, we started the process about 6-7 years ago to modernize the global flight planning system. How do you share global flight plans? And how do you share NOTAM systems? So those of you that doesn't know what a NOTAM is a notice to airmen. It's something that is shared globally between countries on aviation information. Now, those systems are being modernized because they were originally designed in the 1950s when we were still using telex machines. So all of those systems are being modernized using IP-based networks, in other words, similar networks like the internet. So these connectivity, and as we build these global IP networks, we have to secure those IP networks. We see the aviation cybersecurity framework, and countries are happy to work together, but within organizations, within countries, and I'll show you an example again now. Government, airlines, and airports and manufacturers don't always want to work together in certain areas. We find that airlines and airports and manufacturers get together happily to share information and drive standardization. Sometimes governments seem to be a bit slow to get to the table to start working on these global standards. And one country can have various players. And again, I'll show you an example of how one country, one airport can have various players in the cybersecurity for the aviation ecosystem. Harry, next one, please. Let me just stop my video. So this is an example. I just want to show you this example. So this is an airport. This is how it works in Australia, and as an example. So we'll have an airport. Let's pick on Sydney Airport today. So we have an airport. Sydney Airport is privately owned, as all the other airports in the country are. All our airports are privately owned. And that private-owned foreign equity company can decide what cybersecurity they want to build into the airport for ground handlers, cargo, everything onto that airport. They're a private company. They're listed on the Australian Stock Exchange. A normal company, they can decide whatever cybersecurity they want to use. We have airlines. Airlines, again, all in Australia, all privatized. Every airline is registered on the Australian Stock Exchange. They're a private company. They decide what their risks are and how much they want to share and if they want to implement cybersecurity. Then we have the government, the air navigation service provider. In this instance, it will be Air Services Australia. They're government owned. They have to implement the Australian government cybersecurity standards. They have no choice. They also manage the infrastructure, you know, the global satellite networks, comms networks, to make aircraft, to enable aircraft to fly. They have to implement cybersecurity standards. So when you have an organization like that, Sydney Airport, you have 3 or 4 different organizations together running the airport or managing, playing on the airport, but all have different cybersecurity standards. Yet they all integrate. Air traffic control have to talk to the aircraft, have to talk to the ramp controllers. The whole aviation ecosystem has to work together. Yet everybody is privatized and everybody uses their own aviation standards. This is not unique. You find it in other countries. In the US, some airports are privatized, some is owned by the government, and in Europe, similar scenario. I don't know what it is like in South Africa. Isn't everything privatized? I have no idea. But in any case, so this is a scenario that you find, and what we find in some of these countries, it is easier for the airlines and the ground handlers to get together and share information and create a virtual private network than it is for the air navigation service providers to come along, which is usually government owned. They usually take a little bit longer. So it's easier for the airports and the airlines to get together and start sharing information, which then benefits the whole ecosystem around the airport. Next slide, Harry. So let me give you one example of how this has been implemented. So this is in the European Union, in Europe. So in Europe, there's 47 countries that get together. They're not all of them are part of the European Union, but when it comes to aviation, they all share data. They've got this pan-European network service. So basically, everybody in Europe created what they call this privatized IP-based network. So basically, it's a small internet that connects everybody that's involved in aviation. Airports, airlines, air navigation service provider, ground handlers, everybody is on this IP-based network. And it is for aviation and exclusively for aviation. You can see that all the existing services, everything is moved onto that global IP, not a global, but that European focused IP network. So a fully privatized IP network, and all the airports and airlines log into that network to share flight plans, cargo movement, passengers movement, everything. So that's the only way that they could really protect the aviation network within the aviation community in the whole of Europe. The next slide, Harry. So again, a little bit more information. So this is, as I say, 47 countries in Europe. They have this IP-based network that connect all the locations across those 47 countries. And it's used for everything from network management, air navigation service providers, stakeholders, airports, military, meteorological information. Everything aviation related is shared on that centralized IP network. And it's managed by Eurocontrol, which manages. So they share information. And if you're a cargo handler and you want to be part of the aviation network, you've got a link onto their network. There you will find all the aviation information to run your aviation business, but they will manage your cybersecurity, your IP-based network, and the information you share. So they've got then very strict standards on how you share information with this network. You can see that it's the means to transfer business critical data reliably, securely, and safely in a cost-efficient manner for all the ATM stakeholders. So this is the way that they're doing it in European, and it's called the PENS network. It's been there building in certain instances since 2009, but it's been expanded then for more and more as cybersecurity became a bigger issue in Europe. It's been expanding that network over the past few years. This is just the one that I'm showing you for Europe. Asia Pacific and Indo Pacific started a similar network about 7-8 years ago. North America has got a similar network, which include North America and Canada. So you can now see how Europe, North America, and Indo-Pacific, all the countries in the Indo-Pacific start sharing these networks. So basically what they're building is a global IP-based internet for aviation. Next slide, Harry. This is the picture, what it looks like, the European version. You can see there's the PENS network on the bottom. It shares surveillance data, voice switch data, interconnect, ATCOM, MET, AMHS, everything related to aviation, radar data, ADSB, aircraft tracking, all the data is shared on that network. It is through a network called SWIM, which is System-Wide Information Management. that's the network that basically shares the data across the whole network. All aviation standards. And as soon as you have more aviation standards and data standards, it's easier to put a cybersecurity framework on top of it. And you can see it's been used by everything from Eurocontrol, which is the air traffic control organization in Europe, military, European military, regional networks, airports, ATCs, all airports, cargo, everybody uses that single network in the whole of aviation in Europe. Next slide, please, Harry. So let's see what happens now per state. You can imagine if you start building a framework like that in Europe or in Asia Pacific and North America, it means that you have to set certain standards for every country, which will be part of that network. So every country has to agree. Now, it's very difficult to say to every country, like, Australia, you should use ISO, or you should use COBIT or framework or NIST, because every country has got its own cybersecurity standard. So the frameworks there, just NIST as example, is a cybersecurity framework used in North America. ISM is a cybersecurity standard in Australia. So what you're telling every state is not which standard you should use. You should just use a framework standard, which then give you the ability to globally share data. Because if you implement one of those standards that are very clear way, how do you manage your data, your IP networks, it gives you a standard framework of working. Aviation standards from ICAO, so you can see the ICAO SARBs. The SARBs are standard and recommended practices, which is the ICAO documentation, and then the SWIM standards. So those are all standards improved by ICAO. And if you go and talk to your local aviation standards organization in South Africa, they all have to comply to those standards. And then wider network, you can see there, again, so interesting, what comes from ICAO is that they want every country, as your aviation networks get attacked, they suggest that you have a computer emergency response team per country to address these standards. Now, to give you just an example, in Australia, it took quite a few years to get this computer emergency response team established in Australia. It's been going for about 15 years now, I think. But it's not only for aviation. In the last few years, they've expanded that computer emergency response team to look at all critical infrastructure. So it now includes banking, it now includes all transport, rail transport, maritime transport, aviation transport, and all critical infrastructure. They've also, in the last 2 or 3 years, changed the law in Australia that for this computer emergency response team, they not only have the responsibility to protect the critical infrastructure, they also have the authority to counterattack, which they've done a few times in the last few months, if you look at the media in Australia. In other words, if we have a country that attacks Australia's aviation network, this computer emergency response team has the authority to counterattack wherever it comes from. And then the normal standard defense systems, you have to implement, intrusion detection in your system, public network keys, and security design. In other words, as you build your next systems to integrate all your IT systems, you have to put security by design from the beginning into your future systems. And again, as you design these systems, and we keep on modernizing our systems and replacing our systems, it is important to know these international standards that are coming through. These are not new standards. I mean, this organization has been working on those standards for about 7-8 years. So they are fairly robust documentation that are available to show you what these international cybersecurity standards are. And again, the international per state. If you run an airline, why should you care? The reality is, if you get NOTAMs and briefing and you fly anywhere outside South Africa in future, you will have to comply to these standards. Now, in Australia, if you fly in the outback, your little Piper Cup or your biplane between farms, and you don't even have to submit the flight plan. But if you've crashed, then nobody's going to come ever looking for you. But if you fly any commercial airline in Australia, you have to comply to all these standards. Next one, Harry. So this is the last slide, cybersecurity framework. So I'm not going to give too much detail. Again, these cybersecurity framework, these principles and design operational principles are all documentation that are available. You can go and have a look on the ICAO website. So all those documents, ICAO 986 tells you there how to design your future ATN networks using IPS. In simple terms, how do you design your future networks to share globally information? And how do you receive documentation from on your aeronautical telecommunication networks? So these are all standard documents that are available from the ICAO website. As I say, they're all public information. You can go and download this documentation. Next one, Harry. I think that was the last one. So yeah, so thank you very much, ladies and gentlemen. I think my idea today was to give you a bigger view, what's happening more on a global scale. There are global cybersecurity standards, and they are being trickled down, right down to where we are at the bottom. When you run a small company or you start sharing data, those cybersecurity standards are going to impact you as an organization in future. So that's it from my side. Thank you very much.
Yeah, Pierre, such a exciting presentation, interesting. It's so concerning to learn about all these attacks. Airplane is a quite sensitive thing. You can't put it at the side stand and get out. It doesn't work that way. But standards definitely so important, and compliance. Yeah, thank you for all your guidance, and we understand this must be the most complex systems. And interesting that everybody obviously have to share info in this international integrated world, So this common IP-based network is so interesting, and that's obviously, as we're going to learn a lot about this one in the future. Yeah, obviously when we get to
I was in Seattle a few years ago at the Boeing factory, and they showed me the future aircraft that they're designing and how information will be shared, and it's scary, mate. Sorry.
Pierre,
Yes.
when we reach the questions and answers, it will be past midnight for you. So can we allow quickly, should somebody have a question for you?
Yes, please. I need to go and have dinner, so I'm not going to be with you for the rest of the presentations.
Yeah. So ladies and gents, you're welcome to unmute yourself, and then I will recognize you. Once you've unmuted yourself, if you want to ask a question. So you're welcome to unmute, and then we can ask. You can ask a question to Pierre. Let's give them a minute. Seems to me everybody is stunned, Pierre.
That's good.
Is it Gerda Smit? Gerda, you're welcome to ask a question.
Thank you, sir. I just want to know, the ICAO is now for the civil aviation. Sorry, I'm Afrikaans, so I just want to know if they're going to do it on an international basis and for all modes of transport. Are they going to incorporate that into this ICAO, or are they going then to make a change to it instead of having it as ICAO and as all transport modes?
Well, ICAO is driving this standard, and it's for commercial aviation, but not for all commercial. It's even built into military aviation. But usually military has a few special tricks. You can flip a switch and military can go dark and disappear off the networks. But these are standards are being driven by ICAO on a global standard, and they've been driven down, by states. As I say, Australia, twice a year, they send 12 people to Montreal and they go and vote on these papers. And if they get voted in, you can log on to the ICAO website. You can see which cybersecurity papers was presented, what was the decision, how countries voted. And if they vote that these standards will be implemented, that flows down to your regulator in South Africa. And by law, they will have to implement those. So what do? They just put out standards and say to all the aviation organizations in South Africa, you have to comply to these new cyber standards. That's how it works globally. So yeah, they're driving that standards down. It's been doing that for many, many years. I hope I answered your question, Gerda.
Thanks, Pierre. Teams. Yes,
Yes,
Gerda?
yes, you did. You did. So seeing that they're driving it, it's not going to change in terms of the naming of it, so that it can be implemented throughout all the modes of transport, communication on an international basis. So it is noted. Thanks.
Well, so again, although these are aviation standards, so they do use geospatial standards, and they do use meteorological standards, which are used by other modes of transport, like naval transport, ships. They also use navigation, and they also use ADSB, similar navigation standards. But those standards are, although they developed by the Department of Meteorology, I'm struggling with that word. They don't rewrite meteorological standards for aviation. They just adopt those standards. So the same standards will be used by shipping or anybody else that use aviation standards. But yeah, it's a standards are being driven down from that perspective.
Okay, thank you, sir. Noted.
Thank you, Gerda. Thank you, Pierre. Doesn't seem to me there are any other questions. Pierre, thank you so much for sharing this knowledge with us. I really appreciate you, always keen to help us out this side. And we're looking forward to seeing you again at the Transport Forum. So thank you very much, Pierre. Really appreciate it. Have a good evening further.
Thank you very much. Thank you, Harry. And hoop het gaan goed daar met julle. Bye-bye.
Thanks, Pierre. Right, ladies and gents, that was Pierre Tritter. So our next presenter then is Mr. Massimo Cariele, and he's the lead Africa Region Transport Asset Protection Association. And he's going to talk about standards and best practices and the importance of intelligence sharing to help mitigating risks regarding supply chain vulnerabilities. Thank you very much, Massimo.
Yeah, good morning, everyone. And thank you to Harry, and the Transport Forum, and Roy from Cargo for inviting me here. Esther also made a few times information sharing and standards are very important. So I'll be highlighting those for the supply chain. I'm just going to share my presentation and then get going. Okay. Right. Went off with a glitch. I need to share this out there. Okay. So thank you very much, everybody. I hope I don't put you to sleep with this presentation because it was quite long, but I'll stick to my time that was allocated to me because, as you all know, what we're facing today, we can go on forever and carry on talking until the sun goes down. So what I want to go through today is understanding what the criminal threats in the supply chain that we're facing now. As you all know, we are all facing unprecedented times. There's a lot more risks that we're facing. Supply chains are under greater pressure ever than before. If you look at what we faced through a couple of years ago with COVID-19, currently now what's happening in Europe with Ukraine, we feel all of it. Every time something like this happens, we all feel it. One of the major factors that we're picking up is organized crime is being more and more organized by the day. It affects us all. One of us can actually say that we're not affected by any of this stuff. And there's a lot more that's affecting us at the moment. As you can see on the slide, we can go on. One of the biggest factors now hitting Europe is driver shortage. And I think it will start hitting us at some point or another, because when Europe or America sneezes, we tend to catch a cold. So it's good practice to try and see what they're going through. And believe me, Europe is not experiencing what we're experiencing with crime. They are experiencing it just as we are, except ours is probably double and more violent. But cyber attacks is one of it, and Pierre has mentioned, the standards that they need to be implemented. It's out there, and we all been affected it. And problem with cyber is you just can't see the enemy. So that's one of the challenges. So the prime target of cargo thieves at the moment is all products. There's no specific products that the syndicates are attacking or choosing. If we look at all the incidents that we've come across, every single commodity is being hit in some way or another. It can be from food and drinks, tobacco, furniture, household, anything. Whatever sits in a truck is more than likely available to be stolen and is available on the black market. The advantage that Roy has is once his airplane's in the air, nobody really can stop it and take his cargo. So it, like he says, it is a safer way of transporting your goods. But on the road, everything is a target. There's nothing that we have noticed that doesn't get hit at all at the moment. That means all businesses are at risk. Whoever is using transport to get their products, every single business needs a product. In that, the ones that are selling products, the entire supply chain is at risk. If you look at the slide that we've got here, you can see that this is from 2022, 8.2 billion rand per year, dollars, euros. That has been taken from organized crime. Now, organized crime at the moment is more organized than ever before. So we have to admit at some point in time, and we have to understand that they know exactly what we know. They organize themselves. They have structures like a proper business has, and they have investments, they have operations, the work. So we can't turn a blind eye to any of that. We'll see further on in the slides that South Africa in the beginning of this year looked like the safest place in South Africa in the EMEA region to do business because of the lack of incident reporting that we had. So it's all changed at the moment. You'll notice a little bit later that we starting to look a little bit more accurate in the. So the crime facilitators that we looked at during the past few years, the COVID distribution that caused panic in supply chain due to the sudden drop in capacity. This forced businesses to find new resources and supply and to transport logistics partners. A lot of the logistics companies actually had to close. The truck driver footage, they're seeing about 100,000 short in the UK alone. It's actually about 500,000 around Europe, which is a big number of shortage. So this affects the supply chain tremendously. The lack of parking in the whole EMEA region. A lot of the times the trucks are going from one place to another. They need to rest. Drivers need to rest. They're stopping the parking and they get robbed. In South Africa, we don't have any certified secure parkings, and we have very minimal secure parkings that we have in South Africa and in the rest of Africa, for that matter. So there's a lot of pressures on the supply, and at the end of the day, the consumer actually ends up paying the bill, and it affects all of our pockets. To be honest, you'll see how every time the fuel changes, there's a food increase, or when crime goes up, there's food increase. So we feel it in our back pocket, and the poor feel it as well, more than most of us. What we've noticed as well, and I think you agree to this, is the lack of conviction on criminals. I think I was reading an article yesterday. There's like a 1% or 2% conviction rate on violent crime. I mean, that is just we can't keep that up because it never stops. So we need to get on the farm and trying to get these guys convicted. But that's not our job as a logistics industry. Really, that's government issue and a police and justice system issue. which we can't actually make a difference easily. You know, there is civil society that is doing it, but it's not an easy task. And if we're going to blame the police all the time, we must know that there are about 300 and close to 400 people per police officer in South Africa. And if we look at that number, some of the police officers are office bound. So there's actually about 700 people per one police officer. And then our government officials have about probably regions of 40 people protecting each government, high-end government official. So it's not there, is it? Maybe even 80. And there's obviously a lack of due diligence with all the supply chain companies. So there's more risk. Where there's more risk, there's more opportunities for criminals, without a doubt. So Europol has previously identified some 5,000 organized crime gangs. We're looking at a lot more of those in Africa. We don't have the exact numbers at the moment. There will be some numbers coming out later on this year. There are individual opportunist criminals which are very few and far between. And again, you know, like Pierre mentioned, there's the cyber threat, and that is increasing faster than we can actually imagine. So we get to a point where we start getting ourselves resilient and not relying on your neighbor. If you use an example of a neighborhood, if there's an organized crime in your neighborhood and you don't know about it, you don't know what to do to protect yourself and your own home. So it's a good idea for everyone to share that information, and you know what to do in your own home. And if you protect your own home, it's harder for a criminal to attack you. So, you know, the concept is the same for our businesses. So now let's talk about TAPA. What can TAPA do? You know, TAPA is the Transport and Asset Protection Association, and it's the world leading supply chain resilience and security association. It was established in 1997 in 3 regions, which is the Americas, Asia Pacific, and Europe, Middle East, and Africa, which we fall under. Currently, there are over 900 member companies in the MEA region, bringing together manufacturers, logistics service providers, law enforcement agencies, insurers, security service providers, and other supply chain stakeholders. So if you notice, we have the entire supply chain, the body. So we cater for every single aspect of the supply chain, especially on the standards. So what is the mission of TAPA? It's to minimize cargo losses and optimize the resilience of our members in the supply chain. So if you look at the Association of Supply Chain Leaders and Manufacturers and Shippers, if you look at some of these names, you notice that it's all the big names. Almost every single big name is using at least the standards, are members of TAPA, are getting themselves resilient against the attacks. So it's not a tiny and little association. The standards are very, very robust, and it was actually designed by the industry for the industry. It was a few people that sat around a table in 1997 and said, how can we protect our cargo? You know, some of the big names like Dell and Intel and were there at the time, saying our ship's not getting to our customers. We will do something, and they've developed standards. So it's developed by industry professionals. Some big names there, you'll notice. The logistics world, here are the big names as well. These are all people that are involved in the TAPA family per se, and they see benefits of using the standards to increase their resilience against the risk. So as supply chain resilience grabs C-suite attention, TAPA MEA value proposition stronger than ever. You know, we've got improved operation security. There's enhanced loss prevention, greater awareness of supply security risks, reduced supply chain losses, brand integrity, protecting the client's relationship. It improves employee safety, and it optimizes supply chain efficiency, access to intelligence data, security standards training, and asset protection. So we have it all under the banner, and it will really help the industry get more resilient. We all need to take sort of responsibility to look after our portion of the supply chain. We've had a tremendous year last year. The numbers for this year will come out late, but there are 27 countries in EMEA that have members in TAPA, and here we are. You know, around the world, we've welcomed members from pretty much every single country that has a supply chain. There's more leading brands in the TAPA family. Since the start of 2022, there's some new members. One of there's two logos here that I didn't put in, and that South Africa, that's the Business Against Crime Initiative, and the Air Cargo Operators Committee. They've joined as a staff associate, and they get to use all the benefits and that TAPA has to offer. But the message here is more around how we can get ourselves resilient. So I'm not going to talk too much about of TAPA and the history and how great the growth is and all that stuff. What I do want to talk about, and what has been touched on today, is about crime incident sharing. It's incredibly important to all of us. I'm finding it very interesting that people and companies are not willing to share information for I actually don't even know the reason. A lot of them are saying we cannot share what's happening to us because we'll expose ourselves to our customers. Some people say it's a legal issue. So some don't even know why they don't want to share information. The crux of it is, if we don't share our information, we will never know what's out there. We don't get ourselves resilient enough. It doesn't help us all keep it to ourselves. One thing that the TAPA intelligence system doesn't, it doesn't highlight the name of the company that's been a victim of the incident or the name of the product. We only have the incidents, and when we have incidents, we put them onto the intelligence system. The members can actually use this intelligence to route planning, to know the modus operandi, to prepare themselves, to get themselves resilient against whatever is happening out there. And the benefits of this is that you can actually make informed decisions when you are moving your cargo around. And the intelligence system can also be integrated into your existing systems that you have, which helps you. So if you have a tracking system, you can integrate it and you'll know which routes to avoid and so on. And there's many systems out there that can do that. But one thing that we have in Google, for example, if you Google how many KFCs are there around the world, and you press enter, within 10 seconds, not even a second, you'll have a map of the world, every single KFC in the world. But if you Google, where are the crime hotspots, where are the crime incidents, there are none. It'll come up with nothing. The only Google for crime incidents is the system, the TAPA information system. I'll play you a little video now, and then we'll go through the rest a bit later after the video. It's not a little video, it's only about 3 minutes.
Supply chains are facing unprecedented risks. Today, one of the biggest threats to supply chain resilience is cargo crime, costing businesses billions of euros in losses annually, and attacks on cargo facilities and modes of transport by organized crime groups and others are growing year over year. To mitigate these risks and prevent losses, businesses and law enforcement agencies need one key ingredient: intelligence. As the leading industry association for supply chain security and resilience, the TAPA EMEA Intelligence System, TIS, provides this solution. With the support of law enforcement agencies and businesses manufacturing and moving goods throughout the Europe, Middle East and Africa region, TIS provides intelligence alerts and a unique incident database for hundreds of law enforcement officers in over 60 countries, assisting police investigations and the disruption of criminal groups. This intelligence enables companies to avoid cargo crime hotspots and to protect their supply chains operations from a criminal attack. TIS also allows thousands of registered users to see when, where and how cargo thefts are occurring, the modus operandi of criminals, the types of goods being stolen and the financial losses incurred. And TIS is more than just a crime database. Companies looking to optimize the resilience of their supply chains have full visibility of operators and locations of TAPA certified facilities, TAPA certified trucking providers, and secure truck parking locations meeting the association's security requirements. Downloading search information takes just seconds to complete. Users can also submit anonymous cargo crime incident reports to increase TAPA EMEA's database of incident intelligence using this simple form to record all relevant data. Every report helps us to help you. All data reported to TAPA EMEA is verified before being entered into the TIS database. Select specific search data. The results will instantly appear in our Cargo Crime Monitor dashboard. Here, based on your chosen criteria, you can see all incidents and average and total losses. Our mapping tool shows where we have the most crime reports, the biggest single loss and its location, plus data and insight on the types of incidents, crime locations, modus operandi, and product categories of stolen goods. On the Comparison tab, you can also see annual and monthly crime trends, and registered TIS users can also export data for their own analysis. TAPA EMEA can also provide API capabilities. Contact TIS team at tapaemea.org to learn more. Cargo crime intelligence gives us the knowledge and capability to protect supply chains. In the drive for supply chain resilience, we are stronger when we work together. Use TIS, feed TIS, and together we will continue to reduce the threat of cargo crime. You can submit your data securely and anonymously and increase the benefits for our entire cargo security community. Learn more about TAPA EMEA at tapaemea.org. Intelligent Supply Chain Resilience Solutions.
Okay, so I hope that explains. Also, I'm not going to go through too many of the details of TIS because the video kind of says it all. The message is though that it's important that we use intelligence to help ourselves get a more resilient against our risks. One thing to note is that, for example, Europol uses TIS as their primary source of intelligence. We have got a few officers in the South African police force that are using TIS to get some information and also loading information onto the system to help them, mitigate some of these incidents. And there you'll look at Europe looks a red blotch. Until not long ago, South Africa was just completely clear and it looked like it was the safest place in the world to do business. That's changed. We are getting a lot more cooperation with from the industry and the SAPS to put incidents. So it's looking a little bit more realistic. And this is the kind of report that you get, more or less the daily losses for the ever many years or months you want to do. There's the type of products, hotspots, number, all the information that you need to make informed decisions on where your cargo will move. You'll see here now there's a world map of where the incidents are. Africa looks like a very, very safe place to do business so far. So it's, I think we should all move our businesses there. But that will change soon. We are getting inspiration. We are meeting with a lot more industry professionals throughout Africa, get these incidents, understand what's happening to all of us, and then we can all benefit from information. This slide sort of just tells from a period of time from January 2022 to April 2023 of amounts of cargo thefts reported to TIS, but that's changed a lot. So slightly a little bit old. In the last week, we actually updated quite a few incidents. The important thing is that we all need to know what the MO is, because then we know how to secure ourselves against these MOs. If we don't know it, we might actually be doing the wrong thing to protect ourselves, and then we leave open some back doors. So there's a lot of different MOs that have been highlighted through information from all of our members and all of the industry professionals of what's actually happening out there. So it helps us all know what to do. And the standards of TAPA, the TSR, which is the trucking security requirements, the FSR, the facility security requirements, and the PSR, which is the parking security requirements, covers all these things. And all the requirements in the standard covers from when you employ an employee until you've delivered your cargo. Fraudulent pickups has been a big issue. Even in South Africa, we've had a couple of those, and it's not easy to mitigate against that unless you put some standards in place. You've got to know who is delivering and who's collecting from your facilities. Last-mile deliveries are a huge problem at the moment. I mean, you know, for whoever that runs a courier company, how you sleep at night, I don't know, but it's not easy for these guys. And standards are kind of helping towards it. But, you know, the criminals they are the wild man in the lab line. So we need to be more resilient against them. So I am running out of time, so I'm going to go through the slides quite a little bit faster. But we do need to mitigate supply chain losses. We've really got to start implementing standards that are actually built for the industry and have been working for many, many years and being used by industry professionals to mitigate them. So the three industry standards, like I've said, at the moment is the FSR, the TSR, and the PSR, which, by the way, are free for anybody to use. These standards are not unique or held by anybody, and they are free for anybody to use. If you want to be certified, you have to use obviously an authorized audit body, and they will certify you against these standards and give you a certificate so you can show your owners and your C-suite level, C-suite bosses, you call it, that you are resilient and you have some standards in place. So they're not as I beg your pardon, sorry. We've had a huge growth on the FSR, TSR, and PSR standards in the last year, and that number's actually gone higher. So the slides, like I said, are about a month old, and we've had massive growth already since then. So it shows that the standards are helping industry professionals. So our parking security requirement network is taking place in Europe. I think we can make a big difference in Africa still, but we're there, and it's helping a lot. So, you know, I'm not going to go through too much of that. I think it will speak for itself. If you go onto the TAPA website and you actually see the standards for yourself, download and look at the requirements, you'll see why they are so brilliant. We are training more and more members against the standards. So if you do the training, you'll be certified against that standard as a certified authorized auditor or internal auditor or professional in those standards. So we do training as well. There's my timer. So it's time for me to start finishing off. But the lessons learned is that organized crime is growing. They are a lot more resilient than we are. They don't follow the rules. We have to follow. So it's a good idea to put some standards in place, which are already out there to use. We don't have to reinvent the wheel. And TAPA has representations in the whole of EMEA, in all the countries, and Africa as a continent. So again, we're going to have a virtual conference in towards November. So you're all invited to that. We've just recently had a conference in Amsterdam, which was a huge success. And these are some of the goals that we have for 2023 to drive some improved benefits to the members, amongst others, and also to grow resilience to the industry and to make the industry more resilient against acts that we are experiencing. How can you help us help you? Join the TAPA family, use the standards, get yourself resilient against these attacks and these organized crime syndicates, and share cargo and security receipts so we can all grow and work together. Thank you very much. I know it was quite fast, but yeah, do you have any questions?
Thank you so much, Massimo. Much appreciated. Very interesting presentation. I mean, it's important to understand that, excuse me, that all business is at such a risk nowadays, especially nowadays. And thank you for sharing the important work on TIS and the important mobility, you know, which you need to understand your environment, and also sharing those 3 industry standards. So that's so important to understand. Will you be available a little bit later on for the questions and answers?
Yes, sure.
Thank you, Massimo. Really appreciate your presentation.
You're welcome.
All right, ladies and gents, that was another great presentation by Massimo. Thank you very much for that. Our next presenter then is Mr. Tyson Sibanda. He's the Manager Economic Policy at Business Unity South Africa. He's going to talk about the impact of political and social unrest. Thank you very much, Tyson.
Good morning.
Good morning, Tyson.
Thank you so much, Harry, and also thank you for this opportunity. So I'll be talking about the impact of this political and social unrest. So it is going to be much more limited to what we went through in the past 2 years or so. The July unrest. So my presentation, we are going to be covering these headings as per this slide. So as we know that South Africa has a rich and complex history with many challenges and successes. So one of the most pressing issues facing the country today is political and social unrest. Political and social unrest in South Africa has had a significant impact on the country's development, stability, and overall well-being. While the country has made considerable progress since the end of apartheid in 1994, several challenges remain. So these challenges that continues to affect the economy, it includes the inequality, the high unemployment rates, corruption, inadequate service delivery, and the issues of crime. So these issues have also fueled the social discontent and contributed to the sporadic outbreaks of political and social unrest in recent years. So the July unrest in South Africa, which is one of the notable instances of social unrest, which occurred between July 9 and July 16 of 2021, was a series of riots, looting that took place in several provinces within the country. So the unrest, we normally associate it as it was sparked by the arrest of the former president. And we saw that it quickly escalated into a wider expression of frustration with the government's handling of the COVID-19 pandemic and the economic inequality. So these events of July 2021 have had a significant impact on the country, both in terms of immediate damage to infrastructure and the long-term implication for social and political instability. So before I look to the timelines of these unrest that took place between 9 to 16 July. The other countries such as the US have had similar events. So these events, they also prompted the discussions about systematic issues and calls for policy reforms and also efforts to address the disparities in the US. And also when you look at the Hong Kong between 2019 and 2020, they also had an issue of the social and political unrest, which was about eroding civil liberties and increasing influence from the mainland China. So these unrest, it led to disruption of the daily lives in Hong Kong, and the impact on Hong Kong's economy also included the decreased tourism, declining business confidence, and uncertain business environment. For the likes of Venezuela, France, and Lebanon, they also went through the similar unrest. So what is important for governments is the way that they respond to these social and political unrest. And the consequences that come out of these responses can range from short-term disruption to long-term societal, economic, and political transformation. So the government and the other role players, they need to ensure that they do actually come with a way of mitigating the impact and also fostering their social stability whenever this occurs. So when you look at the timelines of these events, we can see that it took about a week and a lot was damaged, and especially the supply chain activities of the country are the ones that suffered a lot with regards to the supply and the movement of goods between KZN to other provinces. So most of the small businesses also felt the pain, and some of them they closed, especially those that had no capacity or less resources. And let's look at the impact of this unrest to the community. So the July unrest on its own, it had a devastating impact on local communities in the country. Many businesses were looted and burnt down, leaving thousands of people without jobs. And the people who were affected without jobs, the people who lost jobs during that time, they continue to look for employment, because some of the businesses were not able to bounce back, or some of them, they were not insured, and the guarantees that they received from the government was not enough for some business to rebuild. So homes and infrastructure also were damaged, and there were reports of violence and intimidation, and the unrest has deepened existing social and economic inequalities, particularly in the areas that were already struggling before the protests began. So the long-term impact of the unrest on community cohesion and trust in government institutions, it actually remains to be seen. And the impact of the political and social unrest in South Africa on society has been far-reaching. Communities have been torn apart, families have been displaced, and the psychological toll on individuals cannot be overstated. So one of the most significant impacts has been on the education systems. Schools have been closed for extended periods, disruption in learning process for the students. The lack of access to education has perpetuated the cycles of poverty, inequality, and many young people feel hopeless about their future prospects. So when it comes to this, we need to look at social cohesion, where we want the politicians or government to actually ensure that the social unrest does not divide the community, and also whenever it happens, they come up with quick solutions to fix or identify it before it happens. So these conflicts often lead to deeper societal issues such as inequality, poverty, inadequate access to basic services, and unrest can also strain community relationships. And it breeds mistrust and crime, and also contribute to further social fragmentation. And then let's look at the impact that the unrest had on our economy. The impact of this political and social unrest in South Africa's economy has been significant. The country has experienced high levels of unemployment. As we can see that the unemployment, it continues to skyrocket. Some companies are actually now leaving the country and go and set up some factories in other countries that they feel a little bit safer. And also some of the companies, they have moved their headquarters that used to serve the sub-Saharan region here in South Africa to the likes of Dubai because of the safety concerns and that arose from these the July event that took place. And also inflation and a decline in foreign investment. So according to the World Bank, South Africa's economic growth rate has been below the average for the Sub-Saharan since 2014. As we all get the reports that our GDP is going to continue to grow at a negative figure, which is very concerning to the economy. And when we hear such news, a lot of business owners or investors, they get worried and they rather withhold their investments or invest elsewhere. One of the factors contributing to the economic impact of political and social unrest is the disruption of supply chains. So we are going to look at the impact that it had on logistics and supply chain in the next 2 or 3 slides. And then protests and strikes have disrupted transportation and manufacturing, leading to shortages of goods and increased prices. In addition, the uncertainty created political instability and further weakening the economy. So as you can see, that a lot now there are talks when now heading to the 2024 elections. People are now talking about the coalitions, and also there is the worry in terms of lack of political stability going forward, as we have seen what has happened to the seat of Joburg in Pretoria as a result of these coalitions. So this continues to become a concern to business owners and also a concern to investors with regards to lack of political stability within the country. And then the impact on investors' confidence. The occurrence of the widespread unrest raises concern among both local and international investors about the stability of the country. Investors may be reluctant to commit capital or expand operations, which hampers the economic development and job creation. Diminished investors' confidence also makes it challenging for South Africa to attract foreign direct investors. So there was a report that was released, I think about a month ago, that indicated that a lot of South African-born millionaires were actually migrating to other countries, meaning that their money that they had here has now moved to overseas and they are going to make their investments there. So if we cannot attract our own local investors, it means that we are going to have a hard time in attracting the foreign investors that will invest into our economy and do job creations and employ a lot of people who are unemployed and reduce the high unemployment rates that we are currently having. And then tourism and reputational image. So political and social unrest negatively impacts the tourism sector, which is essential source of revenue and job creation in South Africa. And the unrest creates negative perception about the country as unsafe destination, leading to decreased tourist arrivals and revenue loss. The tarnished image may take time to rebuild and further impacts the tourism industry. So when you look at these political and social unrest, it does not only stick to the July 2021 event that we had. So we continue to see attacks on foreign tourists. So, for example, there was a headline that was made whereby a German tourist was killed in Mpumalanga, and that German tourist was visiting the Kruger National Park. So when we hear and we see those headlines, and also when people from overseas see such headlines, it means that they are not going to see South Africa as an attractive country in terms of tourism. So they would rather go to other countries such as Kenya, where they less cases of violence that are reported on tourists. And then let's look at the impact that it had on logistics and supply chain. So there was an obvious disruption of transportation. So this unrest, it led to road closures, blockages, disruptions in transportation networks. And then there were a lot of riots or violence. Remember, there was a truck that was carrying new BMWs that were going to be exported. But because of this unrest, that truck, it lost its cargo at the toll gate. Everything was burned down, meaning that they were not able to export those BMWs. So they had to wait for the insurance and all other things to import or produce new ones. So trucks were unable to transport goods to their intended destinations, leading to shortages and interruptions in the availability of products, and also damage to the infrastructure. During the unrest, infrastructure such as roads, bridges, railway lines, and ports were targeted and damaged. So this severely impacted the transportation of goods and the functioning of logistics hubs. And then repairing and restoring this damaged infrastructure, it actually takes time and further increase supply chain disruptions. And then security concerns. So the unrest also created an environment of insecurity and posed risks to the safety of goods and personnel involved in the supply chain network. So we saw some of the drivers were being pulled out of the trucks, meaning that those trucks were then used to block the roads, and some of the trucks were then banned along the process. So business may face challenges in ensuring the safety of their employees, transport vehicles and warehouses. Security measures may need to be heightened, resulting in additional unnecessary cost and logistical complexity. Inventory management challenges. Supply chain disruption caused by the unrest led to the inventory shortages or stockouts, inadequate availability of goods, which impacted businesses' ability to meet the customer's demand. Companies also may need to revise their inventory management strategies to adapt to changing circumstances and mitigate risk. But when it comes to this, it also becomes critical or challenging. If companies have their goods coming from one direction or one destination, which might be the port of Durban, it might be difficult to come up with other alternatives to get their goods from Richards Bay or Durban to Limpopo, for example. An increased cost. So supply chain disruption also often result in increased costs for businesses, which may need to source alternative transportation routes, pay higher insurance premium, or invest in additional security measures to safeguard their operations. So increased costs negatively impact profitability and competitiveness of companies, particularly the small businesses with limited resources. So how did the government respond to this? Our South African government's response to this July unrest was very poor and was criticized by many for being slow and inadequate. We saw the president condemning the violence, but did not take decisive action to stop the unrest. So it was only after several days of widespread looting and violence that government deployed troops to the affected area. So in the aftermath of the unrest, the governments promised to address the underlying causes of the protest, including poverty and inequality. But we see that there is a little that has been done even after 2 years. So governance and trust, lack of leadership, and persistent unrest undermines public trust in political leaders and institutions. So citizens become delusioned with their government's ability to address their concerns and maintain law and order. Trust in law enforcement agencies may also diminish, hindering the efforts to restore peace and stability within the country. And then what are the lessons learned, or what we learned from this July unrest or social and political unrest is that South Africa is highlighted the urgent need for government to address the root causes of social and economic inequality in the country. It has also exposed weaknesses in the government's response to crisis and the need for better coordination between different levels of government. So the events of July 2021 have underscored the importance of investing in community resilience and building trust between citizens and government institutions. What will be our way forward, and also ensuring that what happened in July 2021 does not repeat itself. So to address the impact of the political and social unrest, we need to comprehend and a comprehensive and sustained efforts to tackle the root causes of discontent. These include addressing socio-economic disparities, addressing socio-economic inequalities, implementing effective anti-corruption measures, improving service delivery, promoting inclusive economic growth, ensuring effective governance, and then additional dialogue and engagement between government, civil society, and citizens are crucial for fostering understanding, promoting reconciliation, and finding sustainable solutions in the country's challenges. And also, there is a need for investment in our education and skills development. As we know that now we are in the digital era, most of the unemployed people, they do not possess any form of formal education or skills that are required for the work. So what needs to be done is an investment in the education system, meaning that education plays a critical role in addressing inequality by providing opportunities for social and economical mobility. Enhancing quality of education, promoting skills development, and expanding access for educational resources can empower individuals and contribute to long-term social and economic stability. So by that point, we mean that our education system also needs to look at what happens in the tiger countries such as your Singapore's, whereby if someone is taught entrepreneurship cannot graduate without actually registering or creating a business that is already working. So here we graduate and then we need to go and look for work. Notwithstanding that, we do hold an entrepreneurship qualification. So we need, before someone can graduate, they need to create their own businesses so that they can work for themselves and hire other people. And then early warning systems and conflict resolution. So what we need is intelligence. We need to improve our intelligence as government, developing robust early warning system to detect and address social tensions before they escalate is very critical. And then economic resilience and job creation. Building economic resilience and promoting job creation are crucial for reducing social vulnerabilities and providing opportunities for the marginalized population, diversifying the economy and supporting entrepreneurship, attracting investment can contribute to the long-term stability and reduce the likelihood of social unrest. So by reflecting on these lessons, South Africa and other countries can work towards addressing the root causes of political and social unrest and fostering a more inclusive and equitable, stable society. So in conclusion, we can say that political and social unrest in South Africa has a complex history and continues to impact the economy even today. From the apartheid era to the present day, there have been numerous instances of protest, violence, and political upheaval. However, despite these challenges, there are reasons to be optimistic about the future of South Africa. One of the key contributing to this optimism is the resilience of the South African people. Despite facing significant challenges, they have shown time and again that they are capable of coming together and working towards a better future. Additionally, there are signs that government is taking steps to address some of the underlying issues that contribute to the unrest, such as poverty and inequality. So while progress may be slow, there is a reason to believe that positive change is possible. Thank you so much for the opportunity.
Thank you, Tyson. This is a very interesting presentation. It's so important to understand the impact of this on our communities and businesses and people's lives. That you actually put the spotlight right on it again. And to understand, the political instability in our country and the government's responsibility, also to help avoid these incidents and the importance to detect the root causes of this and the importance also for the education system. Tyson, thank you very much. Really appreciate your presentation, and hopefully you'll be available for questions and answers at the end of the session.
Thank you, Harry. Yes, I will avail myself. Yeah.
Thank you very much, Tyson. Appreciate it. Ladies and gents, let's take a short 10 minutes break. And then we have another 3 great presentations by DHL Express, Aviation Security, and JC Auditors. So let's take a short 10 minutes break. I'll put up a timer for us. See you just now. Thank you very much.
In the world of express freight, there's one name that stands above the rest: BidAir Cargo. Our airport-to-airport line haul service is the backbone of South Africa's express freight industry. At BidAir Cargo, we don't just deliver cargo, we go the extra mile to ensure a seamless and efficient experience in South Africa. With our unwavering commitment to excellence and improved technology, we handle your cargo with utmost care and deliver it on time, every time. Our dedication to service excellence is what sets us apart. We live by our core values of service excellence, mutual respect, integrity, and accountability. When you choose BidAir Cargo, you're choosing a partner that takes pride in going above and beyond for your freight needs. From pharmaceuticals to perishable goods, automotive parts to live animal transportation, we handle a diverse range of commodities. Our attention to detail and precision ensure that your cargo arrives in perfect condition, no matter what it is. Our dedicated teams work tirelessly to guarantee the safety and efficient transport of your cargo. We leave no stone unturned to ensure your freight arrives at its destination intact and on time. With our advanced track and trace system, you can monitor your shipments in real time. Stay informed about the whereabouts of your cargo with just a few clicks. Our goal is to provide you with peace of mind and complete transparency throughout the entire journey. We understand that time is of the essence for our valued customers. That's why we offer a user-friendly online portal that simplifies the documentation process. Obtain quotations and create e-labels with ease, saving you valuable time and effort. Whether you have a small package or a large shipment, BidAir Cargo handles it all with equal care and precision. Our ISO certification is a testament to our commitment to quality and professionalism. We don't just excel in domestic express freight, we also cater to your international cargo needs. No matter the size of your business, whether you're a small enterprise or a multinational corporation, you can trust us to handle your cargo with the same level of dedication and attention to detail. Connect with us today and discover the difference our innovative technology, seamless tracking, and customer-oriented approach will make to your operation. BidAir Cargo. Same-day express every day, overnight express every night.
Thank you, BidAir Cargo, for hosting us today in such a great company. We really appreciate your hosting today and putting together this panel. Ladies and gents, let's get to our seats, and let's continue with a great event today. And I'm just putting up the program for us today. So that's where we are. We're still busy with the safety and security challenges within the supply chain, the 6th of July, 2023. Our next presenter will be Mr. Theo Fourie. He's the Director, Security and Occupational Health and Safety, DHL Express SSA, and he is going to talk about the impact of data privacy laws on the security industry, especially cross-border. Thank you very much, Theo.
Thank you, Harry. Thank you, Roy, for the opportunity. Let me share my screen. It will be, 1 second. Now the screen disappeared again.
No problem, Theo. No rush.
It's Murphy's Law. There it is. Confirm, Harry, you can see.
Perfect. Thank you, Theo. If you can switch on your video, appreciate it.
Thank you. I'll just move it that I can see myself as well. The ugly face there. All right, perfect. So thank you first of all for the opportunity. Data protection and data, the use of data in our daily lives, especially in the security industry, is something that we are used to for many years. And throughout all of this time, whenever we have data on our facilities, our premises, our equipment, we always believe that that's ours, and we can use the data in whichever way we want to. Now, I just want to, in the recent years, we've seen a few things around the data privacy laws, things in Africa. We all know about the POPIA Act, and how does that impact us? It's not something that's actually new in the world. It's something that is in Africa now increasing, getting attention, and the governments all over Africa is now, improving on their data privacy legislation and regulations to make sure that data is protected, employee data is protected, customer data is protected, and it makes it such a huge impact on the industry itself, on the way how we use the data and how can we use it as part of the security processes. So just a few questions, and you guys must think for yourself. What is the data ownership? Who is the owner of the data? Is it the company or is it the employee? So, for example, if you use your company laptop as part of your daily routine, your daily work, you receive your bank statements, your medical aid statements, your information, your private information on that. Is that data available to the company or is it private? In the past, when there's no data privacy laws, when we are investigating someone, for example, for financial misconduct, and we go through the email of the company and we identify something in there like the bank statements, was it possible for us to use the information as part of the investigation, yes or no? Definitely in the past it was. And even your legal fraternity will confirm that if the information is shared on a official platform, although for private use, that is still available to you as the company. That only it's applicable, for example, to your private bank statements, your medical aid statements, that sort of thing. But it's also applicable to company information like your data card, your access card. Every one of us do use a company access card that you use to enroll and manage your people. Access control is one of the most fundamental things about a security process. In some cases, we only use the picture, the ID, payroll number, company picture of the corporate, the person's picture on that company card. But in some cases, we use the biometric templates as well. So your fingerprint, your access control is managed through either a fingerprint or a RFID card. And that biometric template is still unique to that person. It is a data privacy law that is applicable. Okay, so how did we do it in the past? And let me just get that new screen up. There it goes. So in the past, obviously, we did operate like nothing on earth can stop us. So we operate, and I think a lot of security investigations was successfully done with information that we obtained from our open platforms within the company, and then obviously in social media. Gradually, over the past year, 2, 3, 4, 5 years, data privacy laws came into play, and if we look at in places like the European Union, where it's much more regulated, GDPR is there for a number of years already. And the nice thing, and I think Mr. Tritter also mentioned that the standards applicable to the Western countries, it's so much better and controlled. And the companies agree on the standards. And if the standards then applied, it is a simple question of get yourself fully informed, fully aware of what is going on, and the same rule that will apply in your neighbor's country will apply in your country. Unfortunately, Africa is not the case. So Africa is only now recently, starting to get onto the bandwagon of data protection and privacy laws on it. And I showed a small snippet there of the African map, and that's where you can see all the gray areas. There is actually no protection at all. So, for example, our neighbors, Zimbabwe, there's no privacy laws. Namibia the same. And in these countries, it's only now that we are starting to see some improvement on data protection and data protection laws. It was in the essence of, so to speak, that we were slowly getting used to what happened, and we're being cooked in this spot, like the frogs there on the left-hand side, without even noticing that the data protection laws is slowly coming into play, and suddenly we got into this minefield of what we see. So if we are used to operate in the old way of doing things, there's a lot of things that we should be able or should be identifying as potential minefield impact for us, potential, huge repercussions against the company, against you as a private investigator or investigator within the company, the employee itself. There is a lot of things that we should take note and make sure that we do not transgress on the rules, especially on data protection for personal information. Again, I refer back to the bank statement. So if I'm collecting my bank statements by email using my company laptop, that is actually private information, and we as company does not have access to that. Right. The other information is, again, I want to use the example of your company cards. That information provided by the company, for example, your payroll number, and it's displayed on your access card. That is information that we cannot share across border. So we cannot use the same information, said person A's employee number is 1234, and we use that information in a neighboring country. But the most serious one of all those personal information things or information pieces is actually biometrics. And the biometric template is, we've seen again what Pierre said earlier, and I think Tyson also alluded to that, and also Massimo, when we refer to the cybercrime is a huge impact. Only this morning, you can see now there was communications in South Africa, for example, between banks, whereby they state that your tax certificates will no longer be emailed to you because of data protection. It will now only be your prerogative or your instruction to go and download it before it can be used as part of your tax assessment annually. All right. Now, how do we adapt? And I think there's a lot of things that obviously companies will now start working on. We have to adapt to get through the minefield of data protection. We can't do like the person there on the left-hand side, just force everyone into the minefield and keep a blind eye to it. There are a number of things that we can do. For example, your indemnity forms, your disclosures that we can sign, disclaimers that we have to sign. Verify that whenever you are using the data, there's a disclaimer that we might use this information as part of a security investigation, for example. It should actually be good practice if we put it on your employee contract, if we put it as part of your application for a data access card, if we disclose it when you use your company information as part of the, or use your company equipment as part of your personal day-to-day running, that you have the disclaimer there that my information may not be used, or the company can say, I can use all information that you are displaying on the company equipment as part of criminal investigations. And I think there is a large degree of trust and requirements from the company as well as the employee to ensure that there's no transgression on those rules, and there's openness and fairness on the process and application of that, data protection. Harry, Nico is the next guy. He normally is the guy that said to me, do it fast and furious because we're always running over time. And so, yeah, I did cut it short. I wish to say thank you to you and the Transport Forum, and then to Roy from BidAir for the opportunity for this. Thank you, Harry.
Thank you so much to you. This was great and very interesting. I think it's concerning to say South Africa, you're not there yet, but we're getting there. And I like the minefield metaphor you used. That tells the picture. So it's so important that we need to adapt, through this minefield and to actually avoid this mines in the minefield. And you also said that data privacy laws are coming into play over the years, have come into play over the past year. So it's important that we really be prepared. Thank you so much. I think the guys look forward to talking to you in a panel discussion. Thank you so much.
Thank you, Harry.
Ladies and gents, yes, let's have the next presentation then. That's Mr. Nico Smit. He's the Senior Manager, Cargo Security and Dangerous Goods, Aviation Security. He's going to talk about South African Civil Aviation Authority's view on aviation security measures and focus. Thank you very much, Nico.
Thank you very much, Harry. Okay, so the other participant is still sharing. So Theo, you must just unshare so that I can share from my side.
I think you can share, Nico.
Let me see if I can get in there. Voila. Just move these guys away.
Perfect, thank you.
Okay, can you hear me clearly?
Yes, we can.
Okay, thank you very much, Program Director, and once again, a good morning to all the participants. It's a great honor for me to speak to you today, and I'm going to talk about aviation security measures, and I'm going to specifically focus on the air cargo environment. I think firstly what I would like to do is talk about South Africa and the aviation industry, and I think what is critical to understand is that within the aviation industry, we operate in a global environment. It's very critical to understand that it's not a domestic market, but it's a global environment, and that means our airlines fly to other states, multiple other states, and there's multiple other states that fly with their aircraft into South Africa. And one needs to make sure that there's some kind of global norm in place in order to facilitate business between different countries. One can imagine if there are going to be no global norms or no specific standards, it's going to be very difficult for people to trade. Therefore, what is happening is South Africa itself is a signatory to the International Civil Aviation Organization. We're one of 193 member states. And basically what happens is these states comes together within the ICAO environment, and they look at what is standards and the best recommended practices that they can come up with, and they debate those, and those are then required to be implemented by the various states all over the world. So if we look at who is responsible on ground level, basically for the implementation of that, the South African Civil Aviation Authority through the Civil Aviation Act is then empowered, and it's their duty, and if I can read the whole thing, is to provide for the establishment of a standalone authority mandated with controlling, promoting, regulating, supporting, developing, enforcing, and continuously improving levels of safety and security throughout the civil aviation industry. And as I said, this is done basically through the standards and recommended practices. What is very important is that we still need to consider the local context in terms of those standards. So although they might have specific standards that are within a global environment, we need to still look at how does it relate to our specific environment. If we look at those legal instruments and guidance material, in specifically when we talk about security, Annex 17 to the Chicago Convention is dealing with aviation security. And in Annex 17, that is basically where you're going to find all the standards that are going to tell you what is required by states, and it will also include recommended practices. Now, in order to understand how to actually effectively implement those standards, ICAO will supply you with Doc 8973, the Aviation Security Manual, and that is basically a guidance document that actually explains how do you achieve or comply with that specific standard. And then what is necessary to happen is that on a domestic level, we are then required to basically ratify those standards and recommended practices. And within the South African legislation, we've got the Civil Aviation Act 13 of 2009. Under that, we've got the Civil Aviation Regulations and the Technical Standards, and the National Aviation Security Program also features. Now, in essence, the specific part that deals with cargo security is Part 108, and that is where we have the specific cargo requirements and the regulated agent concept, etc. I think what is important is that within the aviation industry, one needs to understand is what is the principles that are acceptable worldwide, and what would we like to achieve? And if we look at those principles, what they basically say is cargo and mail should come from a secure supply chain, or it needs to be screened on acceptance. So in essence, what happens is that in aviation security, our focus is to prevent the bomb in the box, if I can put it in layman's terms. So we want to make we want to prevent that an improvised explosive device is brought on board an aircraft or cause damage. That is one of the key principles. So in order to prevent that, it can be done through two processes. Firstly, through a supply chain. So if you have a secure supply chain, chain where the cargo is protected all the way up to the airport until it is loaded onto the aircraft. That is one option. The other option is if you do not have a secure supply chain, then the air carrier will have to screen that cargo and make sure there's no bomb in the box before they load it on board the aircraft. Another principle is that we talk about is high-risk cargo. Now, in the aviation industry, when we talk about high-risk cargo, we're not talking about cell phones or gold or diamonds. In this case, we are talking about a cargo that has got a higher risk of having a bomb in the box in the cargo itself. So, in essence, certain countries might be high risk, cargo coming from those specific countries. There might be active terrorist activity in those specific countries. And then obviously what we will do is any cargo that will originate from that country will be regarded as high risk. And in this context, what it will require us to do is to have additional screening being applied to that specific cargo. So we're going to look more into depth in order to make sure that there's no bomb in the box. So you will have your baseline security measures, and then you will apply additional security measures when it comes to high-risk cargo. High-risk cargo can also be cargo that has been tampered with, or where you have certain suspicion or there's intelligence that you need to be making sure about, double-check the cargo. Another thing is that what the principle also states is once you have done the screening and all the checks, or you've packed this specific cargo through a known consignor and it is secure, you need to keep it secure throughout the whole journey. And that includes the trucking processes from the one warehouse to the next warehouse, all the way in transit points until it is loaded onto the final aircraft. And then what we also talk about is that within a cargo environment, air cargo environment, it is very critical to have a continuous oversight and quality control activity. Now, this is mainly when we talk about KO and states between states. There's an obligation that the Civil Aviation Authority, for example, in this case, will make sure that there's continuous oversight over the regulated agents and the known consignors within the supply chain and the airlines, just to give an example of making sure that they do comply with all the rules at all stages. What is critical to understand is remember that South Africa has got a well-renowned supply chain system in place. The air cargo security supply chain concept in South Africa is actually recognized by the United States Transport Security Administration, and we also obviously carry green status in terms of the European Commission. And that is not just achieved through the Civil Aviation Authority making sure that we comply the standards at a very high level. It actually is the industry in South Africa, the air cargo industry in South Africa play a vital role, because they are the ones that make sure that they apply these rules and requirements to a very high level. And basically, we need to recognize the South African air cargo industry for doing a job well done and making sure that we retain those accolades. What is also talked about is that in one of the principles is also to avoid unnecessary duplication of security control. So if you have a supply chain and you operate within a supply chain, the cargo has already been secured, has already been screened, it is maintained within a secure environment, there's no need to rescreen the cargo itself. Now, in this concept, what we're also saying is that don't waste resources on things that is unnecessary. Rather use those resources to do higher checks or more in-depth checks in areas where you have high-risk cargo. So that's in instance the principles that we apply within the air cargo security environments. When we talk about the regulated agents and the known consignors and the airlines, basically there are key pillars that characterize a secure supply chain. And those 7 key pillars are basically facility security, personnel security, training, screening, protection of screened cargo, chain of custody, and compliance, oversight, and quality. And you see, once again, the compliance, oversight, and quality features there again, and it's basically the obligation for not just the state itself to have a vigorous and strong compliance and oversight system in place to check on compliance, but also internally quality controls by the relevant regulated agents or known consignors. Now, in essence, very much the same is that within these 7 pillars, we say that your facility security must be of such standard that you're capable of protecting the cargo, and at the same time also making sure that if there would have been any tampering with the cargo, that you would have been able to pick it up. Personnel security, that's where we talk about the background checks, training, that is there's specific training that is required on specific levels. We talk about screening. Remember, our principle is the bomb in the box that we need to identify. And so within the air cargo security environment, we're very strict on screening. The screeners are being certified. They have to undergo certain training, on-the-job training. So it is quite strict there in order to make sure that the standard is maintained. And then, as we said previously, once the cargo has been screened, the concept is to make sure that you have protected until the point that the cargo has been loaded. Chain of custody, what we talk about here is as we walk in there and there's been an incident, we want to know from you detail about the cargo. You need to be able to tell us exactly what time, date, place, what is the person that has submitted the cargo, what is the movement of the cargo. So the whole process of how you move your cargo is very critical in order to make sure that the integrity of the cargo is maintained. I want to talk about risk assessment, and if you can see in the aviation industry, we talked about the standards and the recommended practices. Now, those are basically your baseline requirements. And what we're also saying is within the aviation environment, you need to do periodic risk assessments or vulnerability assessments. In essence, you need to make sure that within the environment that you are operating in, is your security processes, systems, what you put in place, is it sufficient? If you've been the subject to for example, an armed robbery, you need from there on assess your security system, and you need to identify where the problems have been, and you need to then adjust your security system. So what we're also saying is that there are baseline systems. You must do a risk assessment, but you must never go below the baseline security measures. Now, when there's been an incident, the standard practice is that you will do a vulnerability or a risk assessment, identify what the challenges are, and improve your processes and your security system. That can be regarded as reactive, but when you take the effort to go and communicate with your neighbor next door and say, look, this is what has happened to me. This is the modus operandi that has been used by these criminals. Learn from my mistakes and introduce additional security measures to prevent it from happening. And then we start becoming proactive. And if we can get to that point where we can become more proactive by sharing information, we can do a lot to make it more safer and secure within the air cargo environment. If you look just at part 108, in essence, what we require the regulated agents and the non-consigners to have a security program or a security manual, and that needs to be approved, and they need to operate according to that manual. And within that manual, we also say you need to do periodic vulnerability assessments. You need to identify the threats that you have in your system, where you're vulnerable, what you can do to mitigate those vulnerabilities. At the same time, we also require you to do testing and evaluation of your security procedures to see, are they working? And then you need to also test your response procedures so that at the same time, by doing this, you make your staff more resilient and they're more confident in dealing with any eventualities. There's been some talk about cyber threats with the previous presenters. They've done really very well there. I think what I actually can add in this specific area is I can just add that in terms of the standards and recommended practices, we have got a standard 491 that requires the implementation of measures to protect critical information and communications technology systems and data. And we also have the recommended practice 492 that is just expanding onto that requires you to ensure confidentiality, integrity, and availability of the identified critical systems and or data. And it must include security by design, supply chain security network, and network separation. So those things are in place in terms of cyber threats, and obviously cyber security is an important aspect these days. Although the argument is that usually your risk is low in terms of loss of life, your risk is quite high in terms of disrupting your operations, and there can be a very high financial loss as well. So it can be quite a nuisance if you don't deal with cyber threats appropriately. And I think our previous speakers have also dealt with it quite interestingly. So in essence, when we talk about cyber security within the aviation security environment, we have ratified those standards and recommended practices. Basically what we're saying is we have written it into our legislation, and it is then obviously a requirement for your regulated agents and non-consigners to implement processes and procedures. The AFSEC division that's dealing with these cyber issues, they have also brought out technical guidance material for the development of the aviation cybersecurity program and implementing the cybersecurity culture. And the SA is also actively involved in the National Aviation Cybersecurity Strategy development, and the OCOC is also represented at some of those forums, so they also contribute in that area. I've also asked my colleague Dikeledi, she's also attending this session, and she will also be available if there's any further questions that you would like to ask in that environment. What I wanted to do today is I wanted to speak about the insider threat scenario. And I think if we talk about what is currently the main thing that we need to focus on, and that is the insider threat. The principle is that you can spend millions on security within your facility, and you can have state-of-the-art security process and procedures, but you need to deal with your insider threats. Now, insider threat is an hostile person that is knowledgeable, is trusted, or is privileged. He's got access to specific areas, and he can do great harm to your operations. Now, the insiders can operate in two ways. Firstly, that they can facilitate information. We have had armed robberies at certain facilities, and afterwards, when people have a discussion and said it would have been impossible unless there was someone in the system that gave the information. And that is where the insider threat come in, is they facilitate by giving information, or they facilitate by helping to circumvent certain things, make CCTV cameras not to work, those sort of things, or they can also be the actual perpetrator, and they can sabotage your systems itself. Now, so the insider can be a problematic to you, and the whole thing is that they have got a tactical advantage. They operate within your system. They know how they should operate so that you don't pick them up. And usually what happens is, through your normal quality control and your systems that you have in place, you won't realize that this person is an insider threat, or is getting access to information and leaking it out to criminal elements. So one needs to deal with the insider threat. And if you go onto the ICAO website, and you can Google the insider threat toolbox, it is on the ICAO website. You can download it. It's very helpful, and I would encourage everybody to have a look at it, because we really need to make sure that we are resilient when we deal with the insider threat. Now, I'm just going to talk about a few aspects here in terms of the insider threat, and I'm going to firstly start with the background checks and vetting. And I think that's quite important is these days, when you employ a person, is to do a proper background check. So when we talk about a background check, it's not just checking the criminal history of a person, it's also checking references, checking his previous work experience, qualifications, etc. And one can actually take it to a higher level in terms of how your organization deals with it. It can include psychometric testing, and can also involve the South African Police Intelligence or the State Security Agency to also check if there's any involvement with radical behavior, or anything that can be dangerous within your specific environment. Now, when we talk about the insider threat, one of the most critical and successful ways to deal with insider threat is also randomness and unpredictability. And that comes in within your access control environment. It comes into many other environments as well. Your patrols is where you can basically make sure that you adjust and amend your security measures and how you do things, so that the insider at no stage will he be comfortable that there is a routine way of doing things. For example, at a specific point, there's never searches, and randomly there is searches done to a very high level, so that will make the insider very uncomfortable. And now there's also other options there's currently the technology that we have available to us, surveillance, the monitoring that we have, CCTV. We've got our systems that we can draw logs and check if there's any undue behavior in specific areas. And at the same time is that with your access control, you can also zone specific areas to make sure that if a person is involved with activities that he should not, that is restricted to specific areas through your policies and your procedures. So there's quite a lot of that can be done. But that is in essence that I only wanted to speak about those two aspects. And I do encourage people that are online today or attending this presentation also to go and download the toolkit, have a look at it, and it can be very handy in your operational area. Thank you very much, and I give back to you, Harry.
Thank you so much, Nico. This was very interesting and concerning. So should one say, okay, thank you very much for sharing the concerning news. But Nico, I'm just trying to help you unshare here. It's a bit tricky sometimes. Let me do that for you. There we go. All right, Nico. So the insider threat is quite a big thing. One doesn't realize, because that's a person that's on your premises and you trust him, and it can be so dangerous. So it's the employment of such a person is so important to make sure you know who you employ. And so it's standards. Thank you very much for sharing the standards. And as you said, we must now better understand, the local content for standards and what principles are applicable. So the secure supply chain and the screening, the two important things we need to think about. It's good news that you can hear that the air cargo industry is doing well in this space, and thank you very much for the important work you guys are doing. So I'm quite sure they were going to have some questions for you in the panel discussion. Thank you, Nico. Really appreciate it. It's Jen's last but not least. We've got Mr. Oliver Naidu. He's the Managing Director of JC Auditors, also a gold sponsor of the Transport Forum. He's going to talk about cybersecurity threats and need for employee awareness as a key part of the defense. Thank you, Oliver.
Thanks very much, Harry. I hope you can hear me.
Yes, we can.
Great. Okay, and I'm guessing the presentation is up.
Yes, slide view.
Okay.
Perfect.
Thanks, Harry, and thanks to the colleagues who presented before me, especially Nico. I think he's touched on some absolutely key areas when we chat about cybersecurity. But I'm going to focus on a very unique angle, and that is, how do we address what many consider to be the weakest link, and that is employees who inadvertently allow hackers and that to access our data systems. So cybersecurity, as we know, it's how do we protect our systems? How do we protect our networks and data from being attacked, damaged, or how do we minimize the likelihood of unauthorized access? I mean, we all are familiar with, in today's world, data is absolute gold. Systems run our businesses. And if we are not having access to our data and systems, we cannot function at any level of the economy. So it's becoming an increasingly critical risk faced by most businesses, and it is very much an emerging and evolving one as well. So today I'm not going to talk about in detail the different types of breaches, but I want to just mention them. We get malware attacks. The second one is actually the whole point of my short discussion today on phishing and social engineering attacks. And I'll focus a lot on that in the next few slides. Network breaches, unauthorized access, and weak passwords. I'll talk a little bit about that. And insider threats, which Nico has, I think, emphasized, and I cannot overemphasize the essential need to screen employees and to ensure that all due diligence is carried out prior to allowing employees, contractors, or service providers access into your valuable company systems. we do know in the rapidly evolving environment, technology is accelerating at an incredible pace. And so too is the nature of cyber threats. The sophistication of the hackers out there, I mean, it's incredible. And there's a whole host of companies, I'd say, that are focused on how do they penetrate our systems, how do they capture data, and how do they obtain information, which they obviously use for commercial purposes as well. So there's emerging technologies. It helps us tremendously, right? I mean, IoT, cloud computing, AI, all of these are technologies that we use in our businesses, and we need to and must to keep abreast of developments. But these technologies also expose us to risk, and this is what we're all chatting about today. So building a strong and resolute cybersecurity foundation, I think the previous speakers have mentioned a number of these areas. Risk assessment allows us to identify where are our areas of vulnerability and potential threats. So in defining risk, we must ensure we identify all the risks, we understand the probability, the likelihood, the extent, and the consequence, right? So that will allow us to put in a system that's based on these factors. So we rate the risk and put in mitigating measures or controls accordingly. Establishing security policies and procedures is vital, and we saw recently with the POPIA Act coming into place, we were all compelled to put in place a framework that protects data and protects the privacy of information that we process in our businesses. And of course, that helped tremendously in bringing to the fore the need to protect our data and information as well. The third bullet is actually the whole point of my discussion. And I'll show you a few short videos, animated videos, about the types of training and awareness that we need to bring into our businesses if we are to have any chance of addressing the new breed of attacker that attacks individual email users, of which there are countless many. We must ensure, the last bullet on that slide, that we are regularly auditing our security systems and updates as well. Network infrastructure, these are fundamentals. I mean, the infrastructure is an absolute 101 of data security and cyber security. We must ensure that our IT providers or IT administrators are using firewalls to protect unauthorized access wherever possible, to ensure there's strong network segmentation to avoid alcohol cross-contamination. We must ensure that we regularly update software and firmware and encryption of data as well. And I haven't put a lot of other stuff in there. For example, your backups. How do you ensure your backups are done? Where do you keep your backups? Who has access to it, et cetera, et cetera. But we could go along about infrastructure, but that's not what I'm talking about today. So if we look at phishing, last year, for example, according to, I think, BizNews, 94% of businesses in our country were the target of email phishing. And we see that every single day, multiple times a day. Spyware, and even globally, we're seeing a massive increase in organizations being penetrated. And even though some of the big corporates have very good penetration testing systems in place, validation systems, assurance systems, in spite of all of that, why are we still being hacked? Why are we still exposing our data and systems to unethical hackers? So, and the reason for that, and I should say, is because the weakest link is employees. Now, what I'd like to bring to your attention in the next few short videos is to show how do these unethical hackers gain access to our systems and data despite some really great infrastructure. So here's the first one, and we're talking about passwords. So we often find that people have a tendency to use the same passwords everywhere, especially with people that are mature like myself. We're lazy to think, so we think, no one's going to figure that out. But this is an absolutely, I think, easy way for hackers to breach. So here's the first video. And I hope it's going to play, Harry, on your side. Let me know.
What is wrong with using the same password everywhere? Are you using the same username and password for all your websites? Let's see why that might be a bad idea. So what's the big fuss about using the same password? You might say, well, I can't remember so many different passwords. Let's assume you registered on a cooking website. Your username is john@mail.co. Your password is ABCD123. Unfortunately, your favorite cooking website was hacked, which means the hacker now has access to your username and password on that site. Since you used the same username and password on your work online accounting system, the hacker can enter your details. Now they have access to thousands of your company's and clients' personal information. And if you used those details on Gmail, Facebook, Instagram, and every other site, you have now given the hacker full control. To stay safe, always use a different password for every website.
Yeah, so once they get into, it's like living in a house, right? Once the infiltrator comes through your front door, they access your entire house and everything in it. Same principle exactly with data and software and systems. Once they get in through a crack, they're in everywhere and they'll do it quickly. So how do you know if your password's been leaked online? Well, that's the website that would enable you to detect that. Let's have a quick look. I'm going to try this. Harry, just tell me if it works, right? I need to go on to...
Last one was working fine, so...
Okay, now what I mean is I'm going to see if I can access the browser and plug that in. So I'll just copy that across. Okay, sorry, paste that in. Okay, so confirm, you can see a website called Have I Been Pawned? Eric?
No, it's grayed out like a dialog box. We can't see it, Oliver.
Oh, I see. Okay, then I'm gonna skip that and come back to the presentation. But the point is, you can see that website, okay?
Yes, we can.
So if you go, I would suggest we all copy that and paste it onto our browsers. That will take you to a site where if you plug in your email address, it will tell you whether your email address has been compromised. So it basically searches the net, looks at all apps or websites that you have accessed. It tells you which of them have been hacked and whether you are at risk. And this is something I encourage all the folk we work with to do that religiously, at least once a month. Because if there's a website you've been to that's been hacked and they've got your password, you could easily be a victim of banking fraud and that kind of thing. So I'll leave it there. So when you decide on a password, how often have you used your name and surname and date of birth? Have you used your kids' names? Have you used your partner's name, best brand, special date, ID number? If you've used any of these or segments of these, you are likely to be an easy target for the hackers in terms of their very sophisticated algorithms that they use to penetrate our systems. So point is, don't use any of these commonly used passwords. So how do you choose the password? Let's have a quick look.
How to choose a strong password. Cybercriminals may be trying to gain access to your computers and websites. How are they able to do that? By stealing or guessing your password. Most people use their favorite sports team, brands, or even curse words as their passwords. If any of the passwords below are similar to what you use, then you're just asking for trouble. Use a mixture of upper and lowercase letters, numbers, and symbols. Here is an example of a bad password. Here is an example of a good password. Never use personal information or a common phrase. So family names, birthdays, quotes, phone numbers, addresses, or anything you post online is a big no-no. So try to make your password at least 16 to 20 characters long. Don't bunch up special characters in your password. Spread them out. Don't have them written down next to your computer. Do not use sequential numbers or letters, example 1, 2, 3, 4, or A, B, C, D. Do not use words found in the dictionary. Never reuse your passwords. You wouldn't share your toothbrush with anyone, would you? Treat your passwords the same. Never ever share your password with anyone. How to choose. We had a call from a CEO and he said, "I'm here at the mobile shop. Please speak to the consultant. He's transferring my phone emails, but it's not working." So he hands over the phone to the consultant. The consultant says, "Hi, sir. The emails are not working. We use the password XYZ123 and these are the settings." We said, "Change the port number to 587. Once he did, he said, "Thank you, sir. It's now working." Great, right? The CEO of a large company now has his phone emails working. Wrong. The friendly consultant now has the CEO's credentials. So the consultant goes home and installs the CEO's email on his PC and now receives a copy of all of his emails without the CEO knowing. The consultant can now reset most of the CEO's accounts and lock them out, and he can now set up phishing emails to his clients. Another common scenario is when the printer company comes to set up scan to email. This email password is just handed over to the technician, whom the company has never seen before. He can now send out emails pretending to be part of your company. Don't trust anyone with your password. Always enter it in if required. Treat your email password the same way you would your bank PIN number. Don't trust anyone with your password. We had a call from a...
Okay, Harry, am I okay with time? I want to show one or two other videos.
Yes, you're okay. Thanks. You still got 20 minutes.
20, wow, okay, great. That's excellent. So these videos show how easily we can be duped into giving our password. It's a bit funny, but I think it's not funny because it can easily land us in hot water. Let's have a quick look.
We're talking about cybersecurity today and how safe people's passwords are. What is one of your online passwords currently?
It is my dog's name and the year I graduated from high school.
Oh, what kind of dog do you have?
I have a Chihuahua Papillon.
And what's its name?
Jameson.
Jameson. And where'd you go to school?
I went to school back in Greensburg, Pennsylvania.
What school?
Hempfield Area Senior High School.
Oh, when did you graduate?
In 2009.
Oh, great.
It's like my cat's name and then just like a random number.
Okay. Have you had this cat for a while?
Yeah, she's my childhood pet.
Aw. And what's her name?
Her name is Jolie.
Jolie. Mm-hmm. So like a password of yours would be Jolie and then a number.
Yeah.
Like number 1?
Like my birthday.
Oh, when is your birthday?
June 12th.
Oh, nice. And what year were you born?
95.
Oh, great. Mm-hmm. So Jolie, 6/12/95.
Yes.
Got it.
So you mean to give my password right now? No, I cannot do that.
But we all want to know what it is so we can tell you if it's strong or not.
Oh my goodness. Let me think. Okay, one is Tel Aviv. Yeah. 468 and then Israel. It's only 3, but it's, you know, it's for me it's strong enough.
Ireland 1 2 3 4. Gemma 1 2 3. Spelled Gemma.
Well, most of them are Italian.
Oh, beautiful.
Yeah.
Like
so
what? Like what's a good Italian password?
My grandma's name.
What's your grandma's name?
Maria.
Maria. So Maria is your password?
Oh yeah, now you know my password. Oh yeah.
Yeah.
Okay, so that was a slightly humorous way, but the reality is we are all likely to give our passwords out quite easily because we often are too trusting. I think part of the reason why we do get hacked is because we're very trusting and we don't think we could fall victim, right? But we do, and often under I think catastrophic consequences. I'm going to skip this one. It's a bit of a long one, but essentially this one shows how easily it is with just one click rather. And the external unethical person can gain access to your entire admin. Okay, I'll skip that. Okay, the last couple of scenarios are quite important in terms of ensuring that the employees are aware of these scenarios so that they don't fall foul to these daily multiple phishing attempts. So I hope you find it good.
When Little Red Riding Hood arrived at the cottage, she opened the door quietly and found Grandma lying in bed. "Hello, Grandma. Mother asked me to bring you some food and flowers." "What a sweet little girl you are. Come closer, my dear." She took a step closer and realized there was something different about Grandma. "My, what big eyes you have, Grandma. All the better to see you with. Come closer, my dear." Red Riding Hood took another step closer to the bed. "My, what big ears you have, Grandma. All the better to hear you with. Come closer, my dear." Red Riding Hood took another step closer to the bed. "My, what big teeth do you have, Grandma? All the better to eat you with." Just like in the story of Red Riding Hood, there are always warning sounds to look out for. This is why the main challenge at the moment is awareness and good practice among users whose computers have become highly exposed. 90% of attacks are caused by bad user practices. If you have the slightest doubt in your mind about an email, always check with your IT support team, or you and your company might get eaten by the big bad wolf. When Little Red We're going to look at a few different phishing emails. The same principle applies as the previous lessons. Here is a request to reset your Google password. Here is an example of a Netflix suspension phishing email. On the Netflix website, they provide you with the steps to take if you click on the link. Never open a zip file that is attached to an email from an unknown source. If an unexpected zip file is attached to an email from someone you know, consider verifying with the sender that the attachment is legitimate. This Office 365 is a common phishing email that comes in various layouts. Never use a link from an email to log into any account. Phishing emails from PayPal, PayFast, and other providers are very common. To protect yourself and your company, be suspicious of urgent requests. Check for typos or spelling mistakes. Don't trust the logo or email address. Don't open unexpected attachments. Check the URL in the browser. When a supplier asks you to change their banking details, be very careful, as it could be a scam. Contact the supplier via phone on their official number. Request a letter from the bank and verify details with the bank. Do not change banking details, even if it is from the supplier's official email, as their email could be spoofed or hacked. Never give junior or new employees access to change sensitive information without senior approval. VirusTotal.com is an online malware and virus scanner that was acquired by Google. You can upload a file and check if the file is malicious. The site also allows you to check a website link to test if the site is secure. Never upload any sensitive information to these kinds of websites.
Okay, just a couple more, Harry, then we're done. I think we're still okay with time, so I'll keep going. And if I'm going on too long, you stop me, right?
That's fine.
Okay. And in the previous scenario, colleagues, we had a case recently in our country where a leading law firm, Weber Wenzel, you may know. So they were doing the conveyancing for a property in the West, in Cape Town. The value was around 5 million rand. The person purchasing the property paid an initial deposit of 500,000, and the balance of 4.5 million was due. But in that process, a hacker intercepted the email from the law firm to the client and changed the banking details to theirs. The client assumed it was from the attorneys and paid the balance of 4.5 million into the account of the hacker. So it went to court, obviously, as you can imagine, and the courts, interestingly, found that the legal firm, the law firm, were liable for the loss to the client of 4.5 million because they had failed to make the client aware of the potential for this kind of fraud. And they actually were compelled to compensate the client for 4.5 million. And the interesting thing about that was it set a precedent, and one that I'm not sure how it will work out, but it's currently being spoken about by, I think, many of the law firms, that the burden for ensuring that clients are aware of these digital scams rests with the stakeholders that are selling the property or selling the item. But we'll see how that goes. But just to be aware, if you are a big corporate, then I believe it's important for us to take note of these legal precedents that would obviously impact on us as business owners and managers. So a few more phishing scenarios before we close.
The subject line says National Department of Labour requests your company. If they email you personally, they should mention your actual company name. Click on the email address, then copy it. Go to Google and paste. Remove the @ and everything before it. You will notice that labour-gov.org does not appear in Google. If we copy this domain name into the address bar, it actually takes you to the correct Labour website. The labour-gov.org redirects to the official website in a second to convince you the email is legit. You can see here there are spelling errors and there is no proper email signature. Official South African government websites generally end in .gov.za. The first red flag you will notice is the domain name has -ZA. Then there is no proper email signature. When you open the PDF, it looks very legit. Once you see the item, the first thing that comes to your mind is Google for a supplier. So you notice the first website that has the product you're looking for. Sometimes the product is published in several online directories. When you visit the website, the product and exact model number shows up. So, Once you get awarded this fake tender, you pay the supplier who is also fake, and your money is gone. You can go to co.za and click on Who is Registration. Type in the domain name and press enter. Look at the creation date, and if it was created recently, then that's a red flag. So the date of the email and the date of the domain registration is only a few months apart.
Okay, so I'm going to run through, there's two more, and I think we'll run out of time if we don't. So the banking phishing scenarios are a daily occurrence. So this looks like an absolutely legit email from Standard Bank. It clearly is not. So how do we ensure that our employees can identify these kinds of phishing attempts? If they don't, like I mentioned, we are opening ourselves to
the senders.
I'll skip the commentary because of time. Domains and emails as well is another typical phishing scenario. And maybe I should play this one. It'll take 2 minutes.
If you own a domain name, you will often get a domain renewal phishing email sent to you. The flags for these emails are always words like overdue, termination, suspended, ASAP, urgent. If an email requires you to act now, always stop, count to 10, then look for red flags. Always renew your domain directly with your hosting provider's website. Here, again, you can see the urgency, but if you look at that email address, it's not from the ISP. If you check the link, you will see it says afrihost-account.com, which is not the official ISP's website.
Okay, Harry, I'm going to end it then. I'll tell you what, I've got 2 minutes left, and I just want to say a few things before we close. So we've been working for the last 20 years with companies, essentially helping them to identify their risks, and not just in cybersecurity, but the environmental, safety, quality, road transport. So we are risk management specialists. But over the past number of years, we've seen an increasing risk that's emerged, which is cybersecurity. And like we've done with other areas, like safety, for example, it needs a culture shift. We need a culture change. We need our people in our businesses to understand this new, rapidly emerging risk. So purely mentioning it or a memo on the wall, I believe is not sufficient to bring about the culture change we need to protect our data, systems, and information. The cybersecurity risk should be integrated now within our training, within our companies, within our management review meetings and other areas, so that we don't fall foul, we protect our hard-earned businesses, and we can collectively move forward on this. So thanks very much, Harry. I think I've done well to stick within, it's 20 past, so thanks very much, and over to you, Harry.
Thank you, Oliver. You've done very well, especially by scaring me. It's so concerning that you're saying that 94% of businesses are being attacked. And so we can't rest at ease. And thank you for making us aware of this and the increased sophistication of the attackers.
I didn't mean to scare you, but the one thing I didn't mention, and forgive me for interrupting, is that there's a number of resources that one could easily use to check if the website or the email is legitimate or not. And maybe I'll share these with you, Harry, at the end of today, and you can send it out to all the colleagues so they can have a reputable tool to validate and verify any potential threats. That's all. Thanks, Harry.
Thank you, Oliver. We're planning to send out an email to everybody after the event. So maybe we can include in that email, the information you're sharing with us. That will be great. Thank you, JC auditors, for that. Ladies and gents, we're going to give you opportunity now for questions and answers to the panelists. So can we please have all our panelists that are still available, if you can do both, unmute and switch on your camera, please. Let me just see, we've got these guys. Tyson, I don't know if Tyson is available, perhaps. Let's see. Tyson, can you hear us? It doesn't seem to me Tyson is with us. Ladies and gents, how we're going to do this now is you're welcome to either, raise your hands by using that option, more actions, and there's a raise hand function, or you can unmute yourself, and then when I recognize you, you can ask a question. The people on YouTube, you're also welcome to text a question in the YouTube chat function. And let me just see if you've got somebody unmuting. I see there's one question already in the chat room, so let's have a look at that one quickly. So it's from Gwen Foster. How does one handle the free availability of still immature artificial intelligence tools, for example, ChatGPT and Bing? Don't I want to answer Gwen on that one?
Harry, I could possibly, I wouldn't say answer her, but provide a perspective on the question.
Thank you.
I think ChatGPT has obviously changed all our lives, probably irrevocably so. If I look at our media people, they tell me what took them 5 hours in doing immediate release, now it takes them 1 hour using ChatGPT. So it allows them to have a framework, and they can then edit and customize it accordingly. So it's been a great innovation, I believe. But the perspective I read yesterday, in fact, in the Business Times, I forget the journalist's name, but he reckons that somebody up there is looking at all our interactions with ChatGPT, recording what kinds of information we are requesting, and that data, he suggested, we don't know what's being used with it. So that's a perspective that seems to suggest that, hey, it's a great tool, but we don't know what the end game is. It probably doesn't help the question, but that's just a perspective that I read about yesterday. But I'm sure the other colleagues will also add as well. Thanks, Harry.
Thank you, Oliver. All right, let's see. Are there anybody else want to say something? Okay, panelists, take note. I'm going to ask some closing remarks of each one of you. Just waiting to see if somebody wants to ask something then. Doesn't seem to me. Okay, so thank you very much. Let's then, is somebody trying to come up here? Okay, let's then give our panelists the opportunity to do some closing remarks. We can start with Theo, and then I'll go to Niku, and then to Massimo, and then to Oliver. So Theo, maybe some closing comments from your side, please.
Thank you, Harry. I just want to, comment something, not comment actually, but just to say thank you to Oliver. It was a real good practical presentation. I think what you did today was so important for the business to understand what in practice is happening. Niku, from your end, yeah, always good, eh? Always good to know that aviation is there, is upfront, for us as DHL as well. Aviation is a really important aspect, and the information shared is powerful. Massimo, we've got a long relationship. that will continue. I think your presentation was perfect. The TAPA process works, and I can vouch for everyone who wants to, take part of TAPA. It is a good system to do. It's a good association to be a member of. It works perfect. From my personal perspective, Harry, thank you so much. It's always good to be involved, to learn from the other guys, and thank you so much for the attention. Thank you.
Thank you so much, Stu. And indeed, we've learned a lot from you today as well. So thank you very much for your time and knowledge sharing. Thank you so much. Nico.
Harry, thank you very much. Yeah, I think I would like to start off just to say thank you very much to the organizers of this event today. There's a lot of work that went in behind the scenes, and we really appreciate it. And it's really an honor to be able to present here. I must really compliment all the presenters. I think it was really spot on in terms of what you have identified as the things that we need to look at. And all that I would like to add is I think these are the platforms where we can promote better cooperation between each other, and we can make the supply chain more safer, more secure if we work together and we share information. And thank you once again for an excellent event.
Thank you so much, Nico. Really appreciate your time. Let's have Massimo. Thank you, Massimo.
Yeah, excellent. Thank you. Yeah, I share your sentiments. It was a very enlightening webinar. Very, very knowledgeable speakers. So thank you all for sharing your knowledge with us, and I've learned a lot as well. To reiterate on these privacy laws are here to protect us. However, the criminals don't follow laws, and that is the challenge we all face. They don't follow those laws. We have to. So sometimes some of these laws and regulations that the government's put in place to protect us are actually our Achilles heel. So that's why it's so important that all of the speakers have actually mentioned that standards are important, and resilience. Being aware of what's going on. And Nico, you reiterated as well insider threat, and I don't think any criminal acts without having an insider. They do risk management and mitigation just like we do, and if they have a risk to their operation, they will likely not follow through with their operation in terms of robbing or stealing, whatever they want to do, nefarious action. And Oliver, yeah, wow. I mean, I made quite a few notes here. You also overemphasized the insider threat, just like everybody else has. And that is important. We've got to know who we're working with. The criminal. What I've noticed with this is that we spoke a lot about the cyber threat, and it seems like that those hackers, whatever we want to call them, work very similar to physical criminals, where they do social engineering. So social engineering is a big part. We could probably have a complete webinar just on how social engineering happens and how it's a threat to us. So, yeah, thank you all for inviting me and listening to all of us. And yeah, I look forward to another session like this.
Indeed, Massimo, thank you so much. Let's listen to Oliver.
Thanks, Harry. And again, I want to also commend Theo, Nico, and Massimo for the excellent presentations. I think, Nico, you emphasized the aspect of insider threats. And I think in any business, that is a big risk that's often underestimated. It's a great presentation. In summary, what I'd like to say, Harry, okay, networks are generally well managed by IT departments. Insider threats is a big risk. And of course, inadvertent employees are the biggest risk when we talk cybersecurity. We're seeing worldwide upwards of 90% of all breaches are inadvertently an employee clicking on something they shouldn't. So that's something we must focus on, educate, train, change the culture, and embrace technology to do that, and embrace leadership in our businesses to enable that transition to happen. So we constantly are abreast of what's happening in the sector. The one thing I'd like to say in conclusion, Harry, there are many corporates here. And often the corporates have great IT systems, great backups, good protection systems, I can call it. SMMEs don't have these. And it's actually shocking. When we audit an SMME, even like a medium-sized 80 to 100 people, their IT systems are absolutely open. And I think as corporate SA, as part of helping the economy grow, we must now cascade our corporate governance systems to SMMEs and make them understand they should think about protecting their IT infrastructure because they are supplying to us as corporates, as corporate entities. And that remains to be a big risk factor to corporates if SMMEs are not empowered and resourced. Thank you, Harry.
Thank you so much, Oliver, for sharing all this interesting videos as well of us and this knowledge. And I'm quite sure a lot of people will approach you to being audited by JC auditors. Ladies and gents, let's give a big hand to our panelists. I would like to hand you over now to our host for today, Roy Solomons, who's going to close the session for us. Thank you, Roy, for hosting us. Really appreciate BidAir Cargo.
Hey, once again, thanks, Harry, and our industry experts. I think somebody mentioned on one of the chats, a hell of a scary session, but I think it's good insights from these industry experts and guidance as to how and what we need to be aware of. It's not only the physical threat, cyber threats, really scary. So once again, thanks, guys. Really appreciate it. And the input, Nico, Oliver, Theo, Massimo, and Tyson. Harry, once again, thanks for your coordination of what you're doing for the industry. As I also really thanks to everybody and all the participants, everybody that joined in. I hope they learned. It is about learning and sharing and the collaboration between the experts. So thanks once again, guys. Have a good day further, and we'll see you in the next forum. Thanks.
Thank you so much, guys. Take care.
Thank you.